Check him out.
I'm struggling to remember the commissioner's name from last night. He's
I need
a,
to go over title wave.
yep, that's him.
Get out of here.
Shorter guy, short hair.
They got an egg roll
Yeah.
truck coming in there. They got all their site leaders. They got
Oh, yeah,
site
yeah,
leaders
okay.
here.
All
They got a
of
big
them.
team
I know I
in
see
the
those
buildings,
people.
and they feed them all. A lot of them, most of them are staying out in Squirrel Bluff. And in all the cabins and renting a couple RV sites.
Yeah.
I'm wondering
And
if
the rest of them are staying in hotels.
He is retired. He's
They're
retired
feeding
military.
people park
I caught that last night.
They were at Harper Pines last night.
Anyway, so I told him, I said, so one of my bosses will be,
So,
he'll come
They
in
got an egg
tomorrow.
roll food truck.
He said, go easy on him. Works for a great firm.
you know, that's how sadly that's the easiest thing this week.
Oh, really?
But Jordan, not Jordan.
Telling the partners the budget increase.
The lumber
$4 million is
place,
gonna be
okay.
very difficult.
They do stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, totally.
They contacted Robin, so they want
Yeah.
to come out in December and do funnel cakes.
We're
Oh,
live.
really?
Yeah.
They just had ice cream and
They
coffee.
just doing it just for employee relations.
So
Mr.
they may
Chairman,
have to ask if she go to the plant in Monticello.
Well, they're having corporate meetings.
We're live.
Are we live? Okay, we're live, and it is after 2 o'clock, so we'll call this budget meeting to order. And
Mr. Chairman, for, just to catch us up in the process, I think when we were before you last, what you had seen was the budget as submitted, which was the first time we'd ever gone through, in the 3+ years that I've been here, gone through a budget that was the original draft. So you got to see it in its original form. It's been modified pretty heavily. It is balanced, and we want to talk probably about some of the different strategies that were used to balance that. I'm not going to take away Alan's thunder. He's got a very, very detailed program. He's going to walk us through step by step, but we probably do want to take pauses from time to time for questions, as it is probably a lot to digest. A lot of changes between the first time you've seen it and now. And then, of course, we've got our constitutional officers are coming, as well as a few of our other department heads. So I know we want to try to keep some semblance of the schedule. So it would be my recommendation to turn it over to the CFO for some brief remarks, and then perhaps go from there.
All right, what you have is the main budget document, which is here. And had the separate support, whatever the department heads gave me, if they gave me, I put in a separate folder that is tabbed. I say I did, but I had a tremendous amount of help from Amanda. So for example, the sheriff's department has a tab which has all the backup for his wage increases, some of the estimated costs for some of the capital improvements that he wants to do. And that's kind of the same for every other department where I've got information. And there's more in here than folks were going to be speaking in today. So.
Hey, Alan, for me, you know, you sent me a copy, and that's what I've taken with me and worked with all weekend. Am I looking at the same thing? Your bound copy and what you sent me? This is one I've got a lot of notes in.
There's minor modifications.
Okay. So if I ask a
Not
question
to anybody.
and it doesn't G-haul, then we'll know why.
Right.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the two documents that you have. And really, that's all I've got until the end to go over as, you know, a general overview.
So, Mr. Chairman, would you like to hear from the folks that'll be visiting first, and then have an overview at the end, or would you like to?
Because I mean they're on the schedule, and to appreciate their time, we need
Okay.
to stick to the schedule.
Certainly.
So if that's all right with everybody, so.
I think that will work.
Sure.
Oh, and also I should say, sorry, Chair. Each one of the budgets is presented in a condensed format. So, and those are at each major category grouping, or you could call it line item if you will. So if you go to page 52 is the Sheriff's Department. And this will be consistent with every other department. You've got a condensed version of their budget. What I have below are any types of, for any department, if there's any sort of fee revenue generated from that department, I also show the budgeted, you know, the prior year budget, actual projected, and 2022 budgeted fees. In this case, it'd be charges for community services and fines and forfeitures for the sheriff. Of course, all departments aren't going to have this, but I put them on the same page as is operating budget. And then on the next page is just really the expanded form of his budget and any other department's budget. We'll show you all of the minutia that comprises, that the total budget line items are comprised of. In case you wanted a drill down type of look. And that's it. Thank you.
Sounds good. So, all right. Dan, appreciate you coming.
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is a significant part of the budget, and I know this has been a significant part of the budget discussions to this point. And so I see that you sit down at the table, make yourself comfortable, because we got an hour for you. I mean, I hope it doesn't take an hour, but.
Everybody y'all podium, not the budget.
If you get uncomfortable, I'm sure you guys will call you and tell you, hey, I need you.
All right, so where do we start?
I say you start with the big thing, and let's go ahead and have the discussion about salaries, because I mean that is the lion's share of the differences in the budget from prior year.
That seems to be the largest of any of the increase proposed in this budget, but my dilemma is that we are under where everyone else is able to start. And Griffin is bumping their folks up somewhere around $47,000. I got notice at the end of last week, Fayette County bumped their salary, I think it's 18 or 19% to start at $51,000. Peachtree City Police Department, which all these are in the same circuit that we're in, got theirs up to almost $50,000 on their starting for a peace officer. Pike County's at $42,000. We're just, we're not treading water where we are. I'm having tremendous issues with, especially in the jail, with attracting and retaining employees, and on the law enforcement side of things, we're just not getting applications. And I realize we're 30 miles from these folks, but what happens is if they're going to be in police work, they'll have a take-home car. Somebody will give them a take-home car to drive to Upson County back and forth and pay their gas to do so. And we're in competition for personnel with those positions. The resource pool for law enforcement is significantly less than it has been in past years. People aren't showing interest in this career path, and I'd like to stay competitive where we can offer the salaries that's going to keep us able to staff the positions we have when people start thinking about accepting a new job somewhere or entering this field of work. But I also want to protect the resources that we've already invested in, the people that we've already trained, the people that are on staff. I don't want to lose those to other agencies for the benefit of salary somewhere else. So what I propose, I think, will get us in that ballpark, and starting salary would be $45,770. Would keep us competitive. But what my fear is, if we don't try to keep pace, then we're going to be significantly hindered when it comes time to hire people, and we're going to lose personnel to agencies who are willing to pay. The benefits are fairly consistent on the jobs that are competitive for the agencies that we can drive, that are within driving distance of Upson County.
So Alan, this 11.6% pay increase, is that what's reflected for that 45,770?
Correct.
Base pay?
Correct. Now, have to make certain, and we're talking about the sheriff's, not the jail or E911.
No, just, right now, we're just talking about
That's correct.
sheriff, patrol
Right.
officers.
And if you flip back on page 3, hold your finger, we're on page 52 and go to page 3. The sheriff's budgeted compensation increases.
What does that look like? Is my page,
It's numbered differently. I'm sorry.
the other book, you messed me up by putting a new book out after you gave me one. Okay.
The sheriff has taken the overall 15% increase that he wants, for all departments, and split that between 2 years. So his department's budget currently reflects the 8% increase in base compensation. There were approximately 4 individuals, maybe 5 including yourself, that aren't getting the 8%, or not getting as much as 8%, if I'm getting that correct. The captains, I believe, 5 and 5.
So what was that? So,
So
I mean,
the
I know
cap-
his is handled separately. So your leadership team, you're only giving them,
Well,
not only, I mean, we've given
we've given 5%.
5% for the last 2 years.
That would, I think, put those in line with, that would be a 10% over 2 years.
Okay. And
So-
right now, we're down 2 patrol officers. You're down 2.
That's right.
Any retirements coming up? I mean, we've had these conversations. I just
Yeah,
want to have
not-
this discussion open.
None that I, none
So
that I.
we got nobody leaving
None that I anticipate.
that are here for the long haul.
I don't anticipate we're gonna have any immediate retirements. I may have some out of the jail in, the next year or two. But, on the SO side, probably none for the immediate future.
I just happened to be, in my training class the other day, the guy sitting next to me was the commissioner from Fayette County, out of Peachtree City. And I got that text message from you that showed, because it was, I said, is this for real? And he said, yeah. But quite frankly, I mean, they're in a different environment than we're in. Their tax digest is so much larger. I get it. They can afford 50,000. They can do it. And I asked him point blank. I said, "Are you committed to this to the point where does this mean a millage hike increase for your community?" He said, "Absolutely." He said, "We understand, and it's going to be a tax." I mean, I can't speak for them, but the conversation was, yeah, they understand that it's likely going to result in tax increase for that community to be able to do that. But they're competing with
And
agencies that are more comparable to them in size and scope, and they're urban.
I understand what you're saying, but their size does make a difference in the respect that those $50,000 positions are many more than what we have here too. So I get that they're a bigger county and that they have more people, but they also employ a lot more people than we employ. So, I think comparatively it's probably the same. But when those salaries are $50,000, $50,000 plus, then that effect is going to radiate out to the agencies that are closer to us, the Griffins, the ones like that people are going to drive to. And that's the ones we're competing against. Not to mention the fact that we've got private industry that is raising salaries and raising incentives for people to come to work for them. And somebody who is, in this environment, people don't want to work, and that's a problem. But when they do want to work, we want them to think of this as a career, something that is a livable wage, that they can come and take a career in law enforcement and support their family.
And you know, just from my board guys up here with me, folks up here helping paddle the boat, you know, Sheriff and I had conversations about, you know, what else can we do? You know, I mean, you know, I've articulated with them, you know, we support law enforcement. We've, you know, 2 years ago, we gave the county a 1.75% pay raise, and we gave your office 5%. Last year, we were close to the same, but 5%. So that's 10% in the last 2 years. So this would be 25% in the course of 4 years. And I know cost of living and everything, but you know, what has led us, and Jason and I have had multiple conversations about this, because it's not just your office, it's everywhere. And you know, from EMS to the private sector, how do you get people and keep people? And I'm afraid the dollar is not the be all end all. It gets them in the door, but it's not what keeps them happy when they come to work. You know, housing, schools. I mean, just we've had lots of conversations and spent a lot of time talking about what can we do outside the box. You know, we've talked about things. I mean, and this is just spitballing. We've not done any homework on any of this. Just, I mean, and this is a good time to have this conversation, because everybody coming in is going to be the same thing. I don't care if it's planning and zoning or the sheriff or a clerk or whomever. You know, how do we get people to want to come and work for Upson County, be it in any of those offices or in Jason's office, and keep them? You know, I mean, we offer a pretty darn good retirement system. We offer a great health care plan. My fears is just not always about the base salary. I know it drives, and y'all know I've got a son in law enforcement, and he tried that. He went away for a little while and found out, you know, and not all of them do that. I mean, go and find out the grass is greener somewhere else and stay there. A lot of times they come back, and he was fortunate to be able to come back to our community. So I see it from a personal level, and I see it from our level. You know, what are some things that we need to think about long term outside the box? We go this route, you know, in all likelihood, we're going to have the same conversation next year, and the year after, and the year after. So when are we going to try to do some things that are outside of? I want to do something that nobody else is doing. I want us to be the first at doing something, and not just this is not just your office. I'm talking about across the board. I want somebody to step up and say, "Man, those guys figured something out. They were doing something that nobody else is doing." Could include something like a housing stipend. We you know, pay for their place to live. I mean, because you don't want to, and it's particularly in your world, you don't necessarily want your patrol cars going to another county. You want those patrol cars in this community, age of wear and tear, but having those people vested in our community. So, you know, we're not going to solve that today. I just want to challenge all of us to start thinking about what can we do that's unique. Jason, you want to add to that?
No, I mean, as a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, at a conference I went to, I saw some communities that were doing something almost identical to what you mentioned, and they're trying it, and it, you know, there was 3 different communities, and they were explaining how they were targeting different areas of the workforce. But I mean, there's ways I think we could look to in the future where it's not just a recruitment effort; it's an economic development and recruitment effort. So, you know, we're a rural community. We didn't grow a lot in the last 10 years. We did grow a little, but not compared to our neighbors to the north. So there's definitely strategies that we could employ long term that I would love to try, but I would agree with the chair. It's a mid to long term strategy, not a short term strategy.
Yeah.
So.
I agree, and I would like to, you've heard me say this before, is that, you know, when you compare yourself to companies, the strategy Delta took is they were never a union company, but they always kept themselves in a status where they were viewed more favorably without having to fight the union. Not saying that our folks are even considering anything like that, but just that from a workplace standpoint, I think that we're better off to set the pace than we are to try to keep up. And I'm frustrated in not being able to, I feel like we can't get ahead, because I have to come in here and I ask you, every time we go before a budget season, I ask you to say, all right, we've got to make an increase to stay competitive. Well, that keeps us competitive. That keeps us being able to hire. It doesn't get us to the position where I can add units or add more people on the street or increase things that I would like to increase, because I'm constantly battling this salary issue with trying to keep ourselves competitive in that marketplace. And, you know, I appreciate that. Y'all worked well with me over my tenure. But I don't know what to do, because we've got to pay people to be in this field. I don't want to lose the ones that I have. I want to be able to attract and bring in new talent. But, you know, as far as down the road and adding, you know, I'd like to have more narcotics people. I'd like to, you know, we need to do some, you know, some stuff on patrol. I honestly need another deputy on each shift I have. But I can't come in here in good faith and ask for a 15% salary increase, trying to stay in the ball game, and then add those costs on top. So, you know, it's frustrating to me too, and I don't know the answer to it. Other we got to pay the people that we got to keep what we have, or we're going to lose it somewhere else. But the industry is paying that, and that's kind of where we are.
Well, the other thing the industry does, and you and I talked about it, and you know, I just want these guys to hear the discussion too about, you know, retirements, early, not necessarily early retirement, but and I hate to use the word mandatory retirement, but maybe encouraged retirement. You know, I mean, you know, I'm coming from a military background, one of the things that really, you know, helped me to move up the rank structure was I knew what I had to do to get to the next milestone, and I had a path, and I knew, I mean, okay, by this many years I should be at this level, or I should be at that level if I do the things I need to do to move up. And in the situation you're in, you got guys that, you know, and we're blessed to have them. And I hope that if anybody hears this, we're blessed to have everybody out there, especially the ones that have been with you 20 years and stuff like that. But you know, I also think that at some point we have an obligation to help take care of them, to reward them for 20 or 30 years of service. That, you know, I mean, I'm 62 years old. If I had done my career with you, I would still be out there probably in a patrol car 62 years old. And the last thing you want is me rolling up on a scene and have to get out and chase somebody.
My people can't leave now unless they're 65 years old, unless they take a penalty, 0.5% per month or 6% per year for every year they leave early. And then they can't carry their insurance benefits with them. So that said, you've got people working till they're 65 years old, and who may have started a career there at 18.
Yeah.
So
you know, but for as far as recruitment and well, more importantly for retention, if those guys are out there and they see that people are retiring and there's opportunity for them to move up, you know, if you do stuff at the salary level and you provide a good salary and good benefits, you know, they're less likely to go if they know, hey, if I stick around, you know, Sheriff Kilgore's, you know, I've met all the requirements for the next stage, you know, that I can be a sergeant on patrol, or I can go to the day shift, or go to narcotics, or do one of the, or implement some of these new things, you know. So
I get what you're saying, and you know, back to salaries. You know, we're talking about Fayette and Upson, the contrast there, and understand our salary is still some 10% plus less than what they're starting at. So it's not putting us to where they are. It's just keeping us right in the grasp of being competitive with those agencies.
But what is it, but Monroe County, Meriwether County and all them, this puts us well ahead of them, right?
Not necessarily. If Monroe County got a raise, I don't know exactly what their salaries are, but the sheriff there got a raise, I think, in the last year.
What are, as far as retirement, on some of these comparisons, are they doing anything different than we're doing? I mean,
Fayette County just added they just added the plan that you guys went away from, the 2% per year. And I think there's a public safety I think, I'm not trying to tell you something that's untrue, but I believe there's a public safety component of that that lets them retire at less than what the typical county employee would. And Pike County has just gone to a 2% as well.
But ours is 4?
Well, now your new one.
He's talking about our multiplier for our defined benefit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, ours, the folks that are on our defined benefit, it's 2 as well.
Anybody,
So those folks were behind us to begin with.
Anybody that's been with us is on that 2% plan.
Right.
Right.
But they have the opportunity to buy into the defined contribution plan and put the money aside, and we'll match a portion of that.
Right, 8% or
The
something.
new employees.
The new employees,
Yes, right.
the ones that were on defined benefit, they can do it, but there's no match.
Correct.
Say that again.
They can join the new plan as a supplement to their existing plan.
I didn't think they could do that. I thought you could do one or the other. There's no match on.
There's no
There's no
match. You
match
can join
on
it.
it.
If you're
It's just an opportunity.
If you're in our pension plan, which means you were a current employee before the change, then you won't get an additional contribution from the county
Right.
in your 457 or 401.
You can participate in 457 plan, but you could have anyway.
Right.
You just don't get a match. You're still
Right.
on the
Exactly.
the old retirement plan. What's now the old retirement.
That's right.
And
And just why? Because the sheriff has the same sort of struggles that we do, and my leadership team, we're always involved in that decision making when it comes to open positions. And number one, even our starting salaries, it's impossible to get anyone to look at the beginning part of the scale. So we're seeing the same thing. But the one thing we're not seeing, and it may be a difference in public safety versus the rest of the organization, is that we really have to sell our benefit package. Like we have to really spell out the total comp for people. They are really, especially I'm noticing in some of our younger applicants, they're really just looking at salary.
that's right.
So
We can't get them in the door. Can't get the application.
So when we do get to the point where we negotiate with someone to bring them on, a lot of the times we're like, "But do you understand the value of this, or do you understand the value of that?" And it's
40% is what
It's
it
pretty
costs
close,
us.
yeah.
That's what we're investing in that
Mhm.
fringe. Now, the actual value to the employee is, it varies,
Right.
whether it's a family
Depending on-
or whatever. So, do you still have the pipeline where, what you used to do in the past, and most had to do, you start out in the jail and they those that won't, they transition over to patrol after they,
In theory, yes.
In
That
theory.
pipeline has been disrupted.
Yeah.
I can't staff the jail enough to send somebody to school. And it takes, by the time we hire somebody, get them qualified to get into the school, get them in the school and out and through field training officer training, that's at least 6-month process, at least, before they're even able to start to learn to do this job. And that's why it's so important not to lose the people that we have. But I can't staff the jail enough to free up the personnel to go to school. I hired somebody this week that is certified and moved here from another agency. But that's rare. That doesn't
So-
happen often.
so since we're talking salaries and it goes across the board, you got this chart here and it helps a lot. Maybe we should just go ahead and talk about salaries in the other departments, because, this is the plan for everybody, and then we can come back to the other part of the sheriff's budget. That sound like a plan? Let's have the salary discussion. Does that work for y'all?
Well, yeah, it does. But I do have a quick question. So on the salary portion, we're accomplishing the requested 15%, but it's because we're breaking it up over 2 years.
That was the proposal. Initially, it was 15% this year.
Yeah.
Alan and I talked last week, and that is to do it as 7%, 8% this year, 7% next year. In the jail, do it
Yeah.
for 10 and 5, and for my captain to do 5 and 5. The biggest source that I have for dissatisfaction is that a lot of the counties around us have distributed some of that Recovery Act money, and we have done none here other than
Well, we're in the process of doing that.
what we're doing is passing through the governor's contribution. That's no
Right.
county money. But a lot of the counties around us have distributed some of that money. Lamar County's done $5,000, $2,500 last year, this year, $2,500 next year. So, that would be something.
We haven't had a request for it.
Yeah, I talked to you about it earlier, but we never got anywhere with it. And that seems to be
So a one-time bonus.
a big source of unhappiness among my people that we haven't done that, other than, we're doing the $1,000 that the governor approved here, so. But, you want to say anything about that?
No, we talked about it last week, of a one-time bonus for approximately, it would be applicable to about 90.
About 90.
90 positions, $2,500, to be paid.
Well,
from-
let's come back to that.
Oh.
Okay? I mean, I get it. But let's talk about salaries. That's a one-time thing. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. A bonus. So, let's focus on this if we can.
We've always discussed it as it's an eligible expense for those funds. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But in previous discussions with those funds, we had allocated them to those 2 projects.
Yeah.
Our broadband
Broadband
project
and water.
and our sewer extension.
Because it was, we knew we had $5 million that we needed to do these 2 projects, and boom, here it was, and it's paid for. Now it may be that we may have more room to do that.
Right.
As
Right, because for
change.
both of those projects, we've submitted for additional rescue funds, also through the governor's office, which,
Yeah.
if we're successful at that, that will free up those funds, and then,
That would be a huge morale boost for my people, is to do that. And I understand Crawford County's done, I think, 5,000, Lamar's doing 5,000. That's,
But have they done 25% some pay raises in a 4-year period?
I don't think so.
Probably not. And I'll put our medical plan above most of it too. I get it. But you know what a bonus does? It makes you feel good for about,
For 1 year, it doesn't do anything for your
it don't
future
even
years.
last a year. What happens with a bonus, if you get one year, 364 days later, you go, wait a minute, I didn't get a bonus this year.
I understand, that's
Yeah.
happened over the course of my tenure here, is
Yeah,
a bonus instead of a pay raise.
yeah.
Great 1 year.
That's why I'm saying let's out of the box stuff.
But that, you're talking about things you can do, if we do 8% and 7% and something along those lines would be a tremendous boost there.
But it needs, obviously needs a lot more homework on it, because then where do you draw the line?
Well, that's kind of what my concern is, because if 15% gets us comparable today, we're not becoming comparable today until 2 years from now.
That's right.
So, and
That's my point.
do we do anything similar like the GSP? They do a bump after 18 months, because in this scenario, if we're not catching up until 2 years, but we're training them, then in 2 years, the likelihood of somebody just jumping ship is even more.
If we train them, I have a 2-year contract with them. If they leave, they have to pay back the training cost. But, that would be difficult to collect, honestly.
Mhm.
We would be able to retain some last salary stuff or whatever, I suppose. But
Do they get any
we
pay
don't-
increase after that 2 year?
My scale for the pay scale is different
Mhm.
than the county's pay scale. And the first year, they're at one rate. The second year, they're at one rate, and then they go 3 through 10 at one rate. The only thing they get at that point is cost of living allowances. The reason we did that was to accelerate the amount of time it got people into that group that would normally take them, 5 years. The downside of that is it keeps them in there for a long time. So, yes, they do get there a little quicker, but they don't advance out as quickly as they probably should to go to the next pay scale. The other thing that we do is if they attain a senior deputy certification, then we give them, I think it's a 5% increase, either 5 or 10%. That they get an increase there, but realistically, I've only got one deputy that's gotten that certification. It's a lot of different schools that they have to go to get there, so that would be beneficial. If we do the Recovery Act money, I'd like to consider, number one, let me say this on their behalf, these people have worked, my employees have worked through COVID in the heat of the battle. They've been in houses, they've dealt with people, they've, face to face, hand to hand, arrested, dealt with, cared for all these people. The jail officers have worked with, worked shifts when they didn't have to work, when somebody else was out with COVID or when the jail was infected with COVID. So, they have day in, day out performed their duty to serve us. So it matters tremendously that, they couldn't go home, they couldn't work from home, they couldn't do any of those things. So that matters. But what I'd like to see is, if we're gonna do those bonuses, is, let's stage those where they're, I don't want somebody to grab their money and go, in other words. So maybe figure something.
Well, that, like I said, that's a whole different topic for probably a whole another day. I hear you, and I know they hear you. How many deputies, post-certified deputies, do you have?
Somewhere around 39.
And we do,
And about the
how many
same
a shift?
Jail officers
And
About
4 per shift?
on each working shift, yeah. By the time you take out, support personnel, investigators, floor services, all that, yeah.
Okay. And jail officers?
About the same number. And we'll run, ideally 7 or 8 per shift. We've been running, 4 and 5 per shift.
And then the SROs, there's 6, right?
I've got one at each school, and I've got a vacancy there that I can't fill because
Yeah.
I can't, my number one priority's got to be in patrol.
Yep.
And I can't move somebody out of there. I've got a couple that are out sick and, on injury duty, and until I can move those folks back in, I can't fill I've got the applicants within my agency for the school resource officer. I just can't move anybody into one of those positions until I can fill their position.
What's the impact you're having, just pop in, that, where the city of Thomaston's short, I think they're short 9.
I think they're short 11.
They're short 11. Wow.
I think.
And I think they have 4 more positions they're trying to hire, so they're at 15 officers. So what impact is that having on you?
Well, each without the other would struggle, honestly. Especially on some of the overnight shifts, there's a tremendous amount of reliance on each other. And, we do a good bit of work in the city, assisting them with calls or backup or whatever. So, if one or the other falls much less than we are now, we're going to be in a critical position.
Okay. So jail officers, we see that as 10% up front and 5% next year, and then 911, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is moving 911 operators from that $14 an hour rate wage to something more like a
Like a 38,857.
so what is it now annually? 30 10%, be
Yeah,
like
they're
3,000.
32,027,
And that takes them to 30.
38. That's probably a higher increase for 911. They're a good bit below. They've got a different overtime accumulation rate
Right.
than the others do. But ideally, they would be parallel salary-wise, annual salary-wise with the jail personnel.
How many jail officers are you short?
About 8.
Hiring bonuses for jail officers help?
I don't know. I've thought about that, and maybe so.
I mean, it may be a way to lose some of that
You know,
COVID money. I mean, you gotta have the jail, you gotta
if we
have
do
jail
hire
officers.
them bonuses, you know, obviously, we wouldn't want to give it to them the first week. We'd want them to
Give it
complete
to them after the first year.
Give them a 6-month and a 6-month, you know. It
Mr.
may be an
Chairman,
incentive for recruiting.
for those funds, I don't think that would be an eligible expense.
Come on. You can stretch it, you can find a way. All right,
Unless that federal legislation passes that I had shared with the board, you know, a week and a half or so ago, they would give us more flexibility with those funds. But we could, you know, you can use them for bonuses for existing employees that were on the payroll during that COVID response timeframe, but you wouldn't be able to use it for future employees.
so, and I'm just, guys, I'm talking here, I'm just trying to guide the discussion. I want y'all to jump in, I want somebody else to talk. So let's put it to the bottom line. And this is a Jason Allen question. So what is going to be the end game for this? So in the first year, is how much money combined for fiscal year 22?
11.6%.
What does that mean? Put it in a dollar amount and millage rate for me.
If you look on page 4, Alan, under your key items, it kind of gives you a bit of an idea. And this is just based on Alan and I's estimates of what we're potentially expecting from the 2022 digest. We worked with the assessor's office. Alan ended up using a round figure on digest growth, and then he made some assumptions based on total budget. So it's essentially the difference he explains there in that paragraph. If you adopt it as we're presenting it today, it would be, and I want to make sure I read it correctly. It would be an increase of about 1.05 mils on the countywide.
And about a half, 4.42 mils on joint projects. That's including rec and planning and zoning.
That's right.
All right.
Well, no, not planning.
So it says right here.
Oh, right. But planning and zoning wouldn't have anything to do with the joint projects millage.
Right.
It is affecting the general fund M&O.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the stepped in 2 year, or is that the 1 year?
Stepped in.
That's the stepped in.
That's-
It's not the sheriff's office driving that entirely. It's maybe the majority of it, but not entirely, not the entire amount.
The difference this year between the planned increase for all of the departments and what you're requesting results in is approximately $265,000 is in that blue box.
So it comes out to, it's not a 50-50 split of a mill. It's a little bit this year and a little bit next year, which equates to a mill of tax, assuming digest is estimates.
Roughly.
Yeah, okay.
But that's not the sole source of funding for those positions.
Correct. No, right. And that is correct. Your school resource officers, the 75% of that cost is paid by the city, or not the city. but the
School board.
system. And then roughly 35% of the 911 is funded by the city.
Okay.
So I'm kind of showing you globally.
you know,
So if-
And those are estimates. I mean, if you have a dynamite digest, I mean, this is a conservative digest estimate. If you have a dynamite digest come through next year, then obviously that's going to mitigate the
Yeah.
need for that. But to me, we'd rather start with the higher end of the shock value rather than the lower end.
Well, that's what I'm
So the 1.05 mils and the .42 is not taking into consideration the refunded amounts due from the school board and the city joint projects.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, so I mean, that's what we just got. If you're a taxpayer and you're paying attention to these discussions, what does this mean to me? And that's what it means. And you know, so in a 2-year period, I mean, we're averaging on the rollback rate about what? Not quite a $500,000 in the unincorporated. So it would basically mean, and we're just estimating or guessing here, and I'm just throwing this out there. It wouldn't necessarily mean an increase to the millage rate. It would just mean not a rollback should the digest go up.
It would probably, in its current form, it would be a little bit of both. I mean, I'm saying at bare minimum, you know, you're going to take all the inflation, which means, you know, it's not considered a rollback rate, and then it would have to be adjusted up some. Yeah, as you know, we've been lowering these millage rates for a decade or close to
Well,
it.
not quite a decade,
Or
but
working on it.
for like the last 7 years.
But-
I got it right here, in fact, if you want to see it.
You know, I think a lot of what we're seeing in the current market for personnel and everything else. I mean, you know, Al and I are talking about inflation and impacts of inflation, and you know, we've been able to lean it out and stay well below the threshold without having to make some adjustments. But when we're talking about, you know, some of our largest departments and the need to substantially raise salaries, that means that we're seeing the effects of inflation on our own organization. So
And that's
in personnel dollars.
I don't want to speak for anybody up here other than me. That's what my message to everybody out there that pays taxes, to plan on it. Take a look at the history. Look at the last 7-8 years of the millage rate and what's been done to bring it down. But at some point, you know, we know every year the cost of goods and services goes up. And, you know, so this line coming down and this line going up, I mean, we're probably where that line intersects. And unless we can keep this line moving up higher than, you know, the digest, it's all about growth. And we're seeing a lot of great growth in the community. But at some point, the rubber meets the road, like you said.
Well, and then in future years, it's going to be a more nuanced conversation because, you know, in 2023, it'll be a different story for homeowners versus property owners that are not homesteaded. Right.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have essentially, you know, 2 classes of taxpayers. So right now, this affects every taxpayer, but keep in mind in 2023, homeowners are going to get a
break.
Deep discount on
Yeah.
the services. So,
If they voted in.
correct, if the voters approve it.
If we get it through the legislature.
That's right.
And if the
I mean,
referendum's on.
There's several
if-
ifs between now and then.
Yeah, so, any other questions about salary? And I think I just want to leave this conversation with, let's think outside the box. Let's hold ourselves accountable to doing something different so that next year we're not having the same discussion. I mean, we probably will. I've been doing this for 5 years, and it's been the same discussion every year.
What I propose is, you know, it's keeping us in the game. It's not getting us around the basics. And that's the sad part about it.
Well,
But that's the concern is if 15% gets us caught up today, we're not getting there.
But but the same discussion can be had in every department in the community. Which, I mean, the biggest one we see it in right now is in EMS. You know, paramedics. You know,
Yeah.
and AEMTs, those folks. So it's a very competitive world we're in now. And
Mr.
so-
Chairman, I think Alan may need the floor for a second.
Yeah.
If you, I think this is relevant, and so that you understand the way the budgeting was done, and we talked about this the first time around, but on page 20, this is a clear picture of where we are in terms of open positions, full-time, and the P and O are essentially part-time. Those are, the O stands for people that maybe are like school
Seasonal.
guard crossers, you know, people that aren't, the other part-time folks are what we call our regular or full-time part-timers. But you can see that under jail operations, he's down 8 full-time staff. And that comprises, or makes up $305,000 of salary and overtime, not counting the fringe. If you look, I don't have a totals column, but the total countywide, not just Fund 100, but, no, excuse me, all funds. Let me back up. This includes all funds. We're off over, it's $1 million in our total budgets worth of compensation and fringe for open positions. The majority of that is, you can look at the departments, except for culture and recreation, which is has a large number. Most of it's in general fund. And obviously a good portion of the culture and recreation is paid by the general fund as we support that joint project.
Just to make sure we're clear too, that this budget includes all positions, field
That's
and
right.
unfilled.
Field and unfilled.
Okay.
So, oh, go ahead.
Just
I'm done.
I just wanted to clarify too. One thing to keep in mind, and it depends on the position. For instance, if the sheriff is short a patrol person, well, the shift is still getting filled, and sometimes it needs to be filled with someone that's making overtime, not straight time. So being understaffed on the public safety side actually costs money. It's a savings on most of the administrative functions, whether it's recreation or whether Alan and I's offices or what have you. So when we're short and there's an open budgeted position, it's a savings for us because we're essentially splitting those duties amongst other salaried people. But on the public safety side, it can be a cost driver being short staffed. So
That's a good point.
I just wanted to make that
At
clarification.
times, yeah, but there's a lot of times too when we go without. It's unfortunate, but we're able to get by.
So
That
I
goes
don't-
the wrong way.
sorry, I don't necessarily see anything just jumping right out at me on the sheriff's budget outside when you get below the people part. Is there, and there probably wouldn't be in the sheriff's office, but capital improvement projects? Are there budgeted capital in the budget here? Is that under jail or?
Give me 1 moment. I will have to tell you that.
Well, I just want to be able to call 911 and somebody come get me. Or come help me, not get me.
I don't want to. I don't want them going. Can I take your? I don't want to hear. Can I take your order? Can I take your order, please?
Yeah.
We'll put you in queue.
Yeah.
Please pull around. We'll bring your order right out shortly.
Okay, if you go to page, turn
I
to
say that.
page 78.
78.
This is splashed. I was just basically referring to general fund funded capital.
I don't have any.
There are none.
You can always fund from the general fund, so I built this initial capital budget with the assumption of SPLOS. But, for example, there's a footnote I have for the sheriff's department. If you look at footnote number 4, so the items that he's asking for the jail, those things can be funded. We have $518,000 in the jail fund balance. That is actually in the general fund at the moment, so yes, that's true. Our ultimate plan, this is just accounting speak, but we'll be creating a new fund to house the jail fund. It should be shown as a special revenue fund, it just never has been.
Special revenue fund and be counted as a restricted reserve or unrestricted reserve?
It's restricted revenue. I mean, it has a code section that
Yeah.
goes with applicable uses.
So when you look at our general fund balance, there's that much money sitting there that.
That really
You
should
could
be
assume
allocated. It
that-
should be allocated towards jail improvements. I mean,
Right.
you can't use it for anything else.
Absolutely, we need to pull that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it will be pulled out. So I've kind of made some very quick bullet points below as to what those items are that he's requesting.
Yeah, and that's fine, because that stuff will come to us in the form of approving a RFP or something like that. But I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing in the general fund, that we weren't approving a budget, because I mean, I've been told this before, well, you guys approved that when you did the budget. So I just want to make sure that I know if there's any capital stuff out here that we're approving that's in the budget that we won't see again unless it exceeds our purchasing threshold. So, all right. So no CapEx, we're just talking general general fund
As
budget.
far as the general fund, right, if you're looking at the SPOS, the sheriff was inquiring about is, what'd you call it again?
Flock cameras, taser.
That's in,
Speed.
if you look under other equipment, across from sheriff, that's in that total, and I did not footnote that. My
What was that? I'm sorry. Is it splosh expenditure?
Taser, I don't know if it's, can that be called? Flock, taser replacement, that's a 5 year, 12,444 a year for 5 years.
So, yeah, and we can pull it out of SPOS.
Flock cameras is the same every year, and then one-time speed trailer investment.
So you're asking for flock cameras, upgraded tasers, and what was the last one?
Speed trailer, radar trailer.
Is that I have a list here, but I can't say it's a list of flock full. We got one here, Axon Enterprises, what is it?
That's taser.
Well, shouldn't that be in the general fund? Shouldn't that be a budgeted item in the general fund budget? Because I don't know that you can, was there language in SPLOST that would allow us to spend that money?
Certainly in 21, and do you have that for 16 or 20 or 22? Okay, good.
So if you've got, again, I don't want to speak to.
It's sheriff vehicle and equipment, I think is the way it reads. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I guess you could infer though, when it says the vehicle and equipment, you're inferring it's equipment for the vehicle.
Yeah. I mean, so
We deliver.
I guess the taser is in the vehicle, when the officer's in the
you know, historically in my career, I have done SPLOST purchases for, sidearms, tasers, and things, under the description of equipment.
So I understand that's a
I guess ultimately that would be.
5 year rotation on the taser.
So you have some that are about to expire, or is there a life cycle on them?
Got
Or
some already expired.
What do you do with it?
Trade.
What do you trade them in?
Well, yeah, you trade them in, but they just get them back to the company. If you send one to repair, then they keep it and say it's unrepairable. You don't.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time, but Sheriff, is there anything that we haven't talked about, Sheriff, that you want to mention? I mean, so it sounds like some of this equipment, we'll just look at it as a SPLOST purchase.
Yeah, I have a pretty high comfort level with it, so unless the board would direct us elsewhere.
Some of that stuff, what I like, it's a SPLOST on all this kitchen equipment and all that stuff. We're gonna do it out of SPLOST, I like the way we did it. not.
Well, if it's kitchen equipment, couldn't that come out of the jail fund?
You could, yes. Yeah, and that's really one of the core uses for that.
Because we have zero in 22 budget for vehicles, equipment, and FF&E for sure. Zero, so it's got
But
all
that's,
be coming.
that's not splashed, is it?
No, this is
No.
just the general,
Yeah.
so it's all in spot.
We talked about, how to bid that equipment. You know, we've got some rough estimates, but it's just from one sales source. When we originally equipped the kitchen for the jail, it was done by the architect who had a consultant come in and recommend the, you know, the things that we need. And what I'd like to do is have somebody on that capacity tell us what we can have that is not necessarily the most expensive thing for sale if you're trying to sell kitchen equipment. So I want to have good, solid equipment, but at the most responsible way to purchase it, if that makes sense.
To make sure you're
Thinking about,
Yeah, make sure we're getting what we need to make it work, but, you know.
and to go ahead and just put this out there, you know, as we're going forward with the court facility, you know, and we start thinking about the impact that that new facility is going to have on your operational budget. You know, we're probably two years away from that, but, you know, maybe not next year, but the year after, we'll be having that conversation about
Sure.
staffing, how that's going to.
It's gonna be an impact.
I think we're done. If anybody's got anything else, I just got a sideboard thing. So I was talking to a commissioner in maybe Walton County, and Precision Planning is helping them build a new jail. I fell out. Now they've got their current facility, and it may be the wrong county, but they far have exceeded the capacity of their current jail, so they're going to, I think, an 800 bed facility, $120 million.
I saw Morgan County's doing a new jail. I passed
That may be it.
That may be, yeah.
That may be Morgan.
Dublin is Dublin
Well,
construction.
we moved in-
Well, is it?
Morgan's a smaller county than we are.
We moved
Well,
in
no,
our
this is
jail
a-
in
this was a-
2003,
Yeah,
and we built it for $8
Oh,
million.
it's,
yeah.
I'm
And we're
telling
running
you.
about 145 today. Our capacity is 215.
Yeah, so we're about, that puts us about, what, 70%?
Yeah. If we have to ever, I think before we ever have to do anything space-wise for like another pod, we might have to do something female inmate related and segregation unit related before we ever have to add more prisoner beds. You know, because I guess that's the same difference. You're adding a female holding unit, but there's been times we've got 32 female beds, and there's been times we were almost at capacity on those. And when the building was designed, the trend wasn't to you didn't have as many female prisoners as you do today with drugs
I
and
think,
probation violators and all that. We seem to have a lot of females that are in jail.
the clerk is supposed to be here now, but since she's not here,
I think I heard her though. You want me to
oh,
see
if you want to see if she's out there,
When
take her time.
when is y'all budget deadline? When are y'all going to do what
December 31st.
Oh.
And Happy New Year's. Because I guarantee you there'll be more coming out of this as we get here. So as she's walking in the
She was
door,
hiding from y'all.
one thing I learned, see, you go to these conferences, you learn stuff.
Scared.
There's 100, let's see, I have to go back and look at my notes. There is grant money that is being administered by the AOC, Office of whatever, for helping courts and counties or whatever deal with the backlog. So I just want to point that out for y'all as you come in. If there's something out there that if we can tie it to, we're having additional expense because of the backlog, because of COVID. There's grant money out there that's being administered by that office. We need to take advantage of every grant dollar we can get. So I don't know You know, I haven't looked at the website, I haven't been bored lately, I looked at the website to see what you got out there as far as inmate population in the days, but I'm sure you got some out there that are,
That's
so.
long-term.
So if there's some, that, and I don't know what the parameters are gonna be for getting this money, but if there's some out there that you could tie it to, look, you know, my average stay time in the jail was this pre-COVID, and now it's this. This is an added expense to the county, so we want some grant money.
My average population.
So,
Judge Sams is over that committee. So if you need somebody, you can talk to him about it. There is money. And I don't remember exactly the number that our district, it's not our circuit, but it's our district, our judicial district.
so they've taken that money and broken it down and just,
It's distributed among the districts, the judicial districts.
Are they already doing it, or is it something you gotta
It's
apply?
not, you gotta apply for it, and, there are a lot of parameters on it. I mean, it's all temp help, like it's nothing permanent.
yeah, that's what it was temp
It's
help,
all
I'm
temp
sorry.
help.
Can you hire a regular help?
Yeah, it's not for regular help, but
Regular.
it's for temp.
Yeah, I need a temporary help.
We need some help.
Help.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but there were some things, that Judge Sams was gonna, be willing to help us with if we need it. Now, my office people wouldn't really need anything, but I know Marie's office needs it, so
If
they.
they'll give us, some money to offset, I don't know that we can hire anybody, the way things are, but if we can offset some costs, I'm all for it.
Yeah, check with him, he's got
Yeah.
all the, and I've got the website, I can see the website.
It was for temp help,
Yeah.
specifically.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can't hire, I can't find anybody who wants to work, period.
Much less
Temp,
them.
trash picker-uppers?
How about temporary crossing guard? I can't even hire crossing guards.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. I got 2 or 3 crossing guard positions I haven't been able to fill all year.
Anybody else have anything for Dan?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you,
Appreciate y'all.
Sheriff.
Thank y'all. And thank you
Thank
for
you
giving me
for
that
it.
money out of the clerk's budget.
No problem.
You just need to go and leave right now. We'll report back to you in
Well.
a minute.
See ya.
See ya.
When she finds out that you got her supplement,
That's right.
That's right.
you won't be getting any
Oh, it's gonna
cookies.
be on, Sheriff.
Dave is on him like,
We are live on YouTube.
yes, we are.
Page 50.
So what page are we going to?
50.
I'll go to your book. You can give me this one time. I'll make 52, 50. I'm sorry, y'all.
You got a strong moderator.
I'll leave that one alone.
That's the kind of phone I need. I can't hear mine most of the time. Tractor phone.
All right, what you got? I don't-
I presented my certificate of need. I think y'all
Certificate of
probably
need.
have that.
Is that in this?
Yes, sir.
You should have it. I can make copies if you need it.
Certificate of need.
What is, that's the first time I've heard that called, a certificate of
I
need.
present it every year, it's my 16th time.
You got it.
Certificate of need.
Basically, the only thing that I think my budget's basically the same. It tells you in the beginning. I think we're gonna close approximately 3% under. We've got a little bit of an increase in salary, of course, but then I have reduced under note C. It'll show you where I've made some reductions for other projects that aren't costing as much anymore, so.
But on wages and salary,
Wages and
so,
salary is gonna go up, which is the typical, just, some of it is included with the COLA, the 1.75 that I think, the county's given, then a 3% COLA that the county's given.
so you're asking,
Plus
so,
the step, right.
so you're asking for 3.8 instead of 3.0? Is that what I read that?
My salary change is 3.8% is what I got on there. The actual total of the salary is on page that 50.
It shows it's 9.6.
9.6% increase.
Decrease.
Decrease
Oh,
overall.
decrease, I'm sorry.
Decrease overall.
There is a minus sign there.
Thank you. Decrease overall, over total budget, but then with an increase in salaries. There's a lot of technology that we're able to take advantage of now, that.
You
some
mean
of
we've got
these-
technology that's paying for itself and paying for, really? What is that?
It's,
Jason knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I constantly ask,
He said
we
he
invest
Yeah.
in technology, but we never realize any benefit
oh,
from it.
wow. All of the years prior that we've spent, scanning in records.
Right.
Is really paying off for us right now. We've got everything pretty much online. I do have a little something I want to talk to you about. I mentioned it to you barely one time, and you said to put it in my budget, but I couldn't figure out how to put it in my budget. And it's for that, what is it called, the ARPA funds. Jason and I had a casual conversation about it too a few months ago, where I have the years 1989 through current that has been scanned in and it's available online. But we want to try to get all of our records online. They're all scanned in. I do have everything scanned in. So the expense, once again, that we talked about before on that other technology project that I have, the expense is going to be indexing all of those years. So, and that, I can do more copies if you need, but it breaks it down in this handout that I just gave Jason.
That's not in here.
No, it's not in there, and it's not in there, and Alan didn't mention to put it in the budget, but y'all, I couldn't figure out where to put it, because it's a request for these ARPA funds, and I wasn't sure how to put that in a budget request. So it's not in the budget request itself.
How much
and
is
maybe something we need to discuss at a separate time.
How much is it?
114,000.
And then
Yeah, and also too, we'd have to research this to see if it would be eligible for those
Yeah, that's
funds.
not where I was
it
gonna go with it.
is eligible.
Okay.
We know it's eligible. Other counties are doing it, so we know it's eligible under those ARPA funds.
Other counties are doing it.
Yeah.
That's not-
They get in trouble when we do.
Which counties?
I don't, I'd have to go back and look at
Anyway,
my notes.
so anyway, well,
But it is, because what it does is this will significantly help if there is another crisis, heaven forbid, or quarantine, then we would have.
so this keeps people from having to come to the office.
Exactly. It keeps us from having, so it meets the criteria, for these funds that are being given to the different counties, or to all the counties in the state. It does meet the criteria. It would help in case there is another pandemic and we have to shut down again. This was actually one of the things that it took a lot of our time during the shutdown, because we could not have the title searchers in, and they were constantly calling and asking us to scan and copy, email, all these deeds that they couldn't get in to make copies of. Or either we were trying to make appointments to have one person in at a time, and this was where we got kind of bogged down during the pandemic when we had to shut down, especially when it was just me working by myself on those days. So it was a little hard to keep up with. The governor, at the time that the shutdown occurred, the governor did require that all deed rooms stay open, and we did stay open. The problem was you had to make appointments, and our deed room, the size of our deed room would only allow for 2 people at a time. So it was a little hard for us to accommodate the public during that time. So that's why I was asking for these funds. Like I said, we've already, it'll show the breakdown on how they can invoice the project. And then, like I said, we need to talk about that another time we can. I just wanted to put that out there for y'all.
I made a note of it,
Thank you.
because definitely something, depending on those other grants, to free up the use of those ARPA funds.
So, hate to ask this question because this is something different than your budget. but
Yeah.
That's only indexing 1980 to 87. What about the rest of them?
Well, it's indexing, sorry, just put that. Okay, so, right, so, all right, so what this is the title searchers are required to run a 50-year title. So this gets our 50 years in there. So that's why it's just 70 to 87. Because 87 to current is already indexed.
Oh, okay.
Anything prior, well, we got 88, we're working on 87. So 87's technically won't be included. Well, it's included in this one, that's right, because we were starting to work on that one. So 88 current is what's in there. This would be for 70 to 87, which gives us our 50-year, which is what the title researchers are required to produce for a title certificate for a sale on this property. So we don't need anything prior to, I mean, it'd be great to have them all indexed, but 50 years is all we need.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? This is something that you do like sort of ongoing over time. It just takes you a long time, right? Isn't this like, are you sort of actively scanning this slowly?
Well, we already have the images scanned in. I had some other money that I used for that project.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the images are scanned in from, I mean, every
This is
record.
just indexing.
Every record, yes. Everything from 1824 was our first record. So everything from like 1824 to current is scanned into our program. It's just the indexing. We try to make it searchable in a couple of different ways. Like we scan in our index books, and it's called a quick link program. And you can go in, if you look at the index, you can quick link. It's still a little bit complicated, and you still have to pay for that, and it's not a complete limit. But we are trying to find other ways to help the title searchers and the attorneys and the general public when they need copies. So, but yeah, the images are there. It's just indexing.
Okay. Try to get us back on time
Sorry.
here.
Okay.
Is there anything else you have for us? Anybody else have any other questions? So, Sandra's gonna retire this year and go part-time?
January 1st, she's going part-time.
How many hours a week she gonna work?
She talked to Renee about keeping the insurance for a couple of years, so whatever they, honestly don't remember, I think it was, whatever the minimum is, 30-something hours that you have to still qualify for insurance, because she's only 62. So her and Renee talked about that, so whatever the minimum number of hours
So
is.
her salary is, she'll still be at the same rate, she'll just be,
I'm not sure yet. I don't know how that part works.
so she's no longer the chief deputy.
No, she won't be the chief deputy.
So you have to promote somebody.
Right. So that's why I didn't want to mention the salary thing, because it'll still be used, because I still have to have that chief deputy position. It'll just be a swap. It's like it'll just be a swap on who we're going to have for part-time and who will be the chief, next chief deputy.
Okay.
And then we had two increases. My criminal clerk is going to be actually taking on the whole criminal department. It sounds crazy for us because we're so small when I say department, but it as probably sheriff attention too, and the other ones before me, we've already talked to the DA's office and others. There is a little bit of a backlog here. We are trying to get caught up, so it's pretty busy in the criminal department. And I've got this one girl, her name's Jessica Smith. She just came to work for me in March, and she's amazing. She went through the Criminal Justice Center training for GCIC. She's got her tax certification, which is a really big deal in that world. She's able to do a lot of other things that we weren't able to do before we hired her.
How many employees do you have?
7.
That full-time and part-time?
7 full-time, 1 part-time.
Tom?
But like I said, that was the only increase, was compensating them on their steps, and everything else I was able to, like I said, lower it. I think the BOE, you'll notice in there that I did reduce the BOE by like 33%, because I think we're at a good place now where we're not having as many appeals as we had before. So we were able to reduce that. Of course, our new telephone system was amazing, so I was able to reduce that. And postage is down because we're doing a lot of emailing instead of mailing. We're still required to do some certified mailings, but for the most part, we're doing like
All right. There's nothing else?
I'm good.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, that was.
There's no capital, there's nothing, I mean, everything,
No capital.
She's just waiting.
Well,
Two more
Well,
years.
a lot of capital.
yeah, a lot of big capital.
And it's not getting any cheaper.
Oh, you talking about for our courthouse?
Yes.
Yeah,
Court
that's a
facility.
little. Courthouse facility?
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, county commissioners, for our new courthouse facility.
Thank
It's
the
not done, it's not
taxpayers.
done yet.
Thank the people that voted.
I know, that was really
Okay.
good. It's really awesome. I'm
Is,
excited.
is Judge Streetman out there?
Thank you for everything. Do we need to
Oh, we're actually a
have
little bit
separate meeting
early.
about those other funds, or what do we need to do about that?
I think it's a
We had a
15
15
break.
minute break.
We'll have some better guidance on the use of those funds in the next
But we're just on a built-in
30,
break right here.
30 days or
So we
Okay, all
wanna,
right, just let me know.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you
Yes,
guys, I
ma'am.
appreciate
Thank
y'all.
you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
since this is an open meeting, I guess I need a motion to recess.
So moved.
So moved, second.
All in favor, we're gonna recess.
And we
We'll
need
start
to,
at 3:30.
Pause.
3:30? Okay.
Yes.
A 10-minute break.
Thank you.
I'm gonna turn the microphone off. Very loud.
Well, I don't know.
Hello,
I'm
Judge.
Savannah is just,
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Doing well?
I'm good
I
right now,
just
might
don't
not be in
enjoy
just a few
it.
minutes.
It's-
Oh, I think you'll be good.
Oh, good.
It's just
We always
changed
brag
so
about
much.
what a team player you
Still
are.
great to
Thank
see
you.
him.
Not to, you know,
Yeah.
we won't say this, we're not.
And thank you for all
So-
We're very lucky.
all the nice interactions that you're having with our new code enforcement officers. They appreciate it very, very much. So,
All right, so
It's just
is there a
okay.
motion to
You know,
come out of,
So moved.
there a second? So we're back in, and we're back live. Hey, Judge.
hey,
Are we- What page we need to go to, Mr. Salter?
That would be page
is it
42.
42.
42. Let me get the other book. All right, Judge, you got anything for us? I mean, got your budget here? I mean, I, as far as salaries and stuff go, I mean, we're at the 1.75 and 3 that we're
Yeah.
currently
You know,
entertaining.
Mine and Judge Hutchins.
Not counting yours.
I know, but mine and Judge Hutchins changed because of legislature
I know.
last year. Okay.
I know.
So
Congratulations.
that made a little bit of difference in my salary, so thank goodness.
Thank your organization
mm.
and the legislature.
Yeah.
Okay, and I see that worksheet's in here, so, but other than that, so I see, you know, we're budgeting for an increase. I mean, I'm down here looking at the revenue side too. We're budgeting for an increase in anticipated revenue.
Yeah, you know, right now, it's just hard to say what the revenue's gonna be because of what we've been through the last year and a half.
We're certainly doing our part on the code enforcement side.
Are you
Yeah.
seeing, are you seeing cases in court?
Not yet,
Why?
not yet. I hadn't had to go to court on anything yet. We've got some tickets in, and I've actually collected some money on some tickets.
Oh, so they're, yeah.
But,
Well, that's what I meant. Your people are coming in,
They are beginning
issuing
to come
tickets?
in, they are beginning to write tickets, but there's still few at this point because I think your code enforcement's got to learn what to really do, because they've been to me several times. And, you know, I'm supposed to be real neutral here, but one day I don't get myself in trouble. I'm supposed to be real neutral here.
we
but
are
I do-
live.
We are live on YouTube.
But I will try to lead them in the right direction.
Well, thank you.
They've had some questions about how to handle their cases once they come into court. And we've also talked about some stuff as far as the dilapidated mobile homes and things like that. And I think Pascal's supposed to meet with us once we can kind of get things squared away there so they can start on that.
Well, I think the biggest thing for us on that is making sure that when we do that, that we have the ability to get that lien filed.
Right.
Making sure that that happens, and I'm not sure that happened on the last group.
Well, that's the reason I said we really need to sit down with Pascal so that we all make sure that we're going in the right direction there and not do something that's gonna come back on us. Like I told Pascal, I needed some guidance on my end as much as probably what the code enforcement's gonna need on their end to make sure that we do it right.
Yes, ma'am. And you hired a part-time constable?
Well, I've got one temporary.
No,
We'll probably put the ad in the paper starting the 1st of December.
okay.
And then my constable will be ready to go to work hopefully by January 1st.
Okay. Alan, you have anything? Jason?
No, this one's.
There's no general fund funded capital. There's nothing. outside, I mean, I think we just approved a vehicle for,
That's correct.
I just, we would appreciate it, whoever you hire and give the keys to that car, that they take care of that car.
Well, like I said, the vehicle that we got now, the big issue was it's way too low to the ground.
I understand.
And if y'all will take a look at the front bumper, y'all can tell why. And so the reason it's not fixed is I think I already had it fixed twice, maybe 3 times, and the same thing just keeps occurring where it drags going into some of these places that we have to go into.
I understand. Sometimes though, anyway, I won't go there. Sometimes it's driver error.
I understand that too.
We don't have but 30 miles of unpaved roads in the county.
This is not actually the roads
I
that's
know.
causing the problems, it's the driveways that we have to go up into.
Yeah. Making sure that we get somebody that can actually walk up the driveway instead of having to try to drive to the front door.
And you also have to realize that some of them's way out in the field.
I know. And if our code enforcement guys are doing it right, they're going out, I mean, and I know that's just a part of it.
Right.
But anybody have anything outside what we've been presenting?
The only question I got is why our office supplies up so much.
Well, you know, everything has gone up, and so rather than cutting it short, I added some to it so that maybe that would take care of the inflation in office supplies.
How many people do you have on staff? Not the constable, clerk.
Besides the constable,
Yeah, you
I have-
and your associate judge.
and 2 full-time and 1 part-time. But now I have had a full-time clerk that has walked out on me. And so I will be hiring another person to fill her place, and hopefully I can get it hired pretty quick, because I definitely need help.
I'm good.
So you serve as the magistrate court clerk?
I do. I have all the administrative part as far as finances and all for magistrate.
How many hours a week does your part-time person work?
Well, it just depends on how many papers we got. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but basically I've tried to keep it down to 25 hours per week. Of course, that's another thing, when next year comes around and it's better, our overall is better, more papers coming in to be served, that will depend a lot on how many hours my constable has to work. You know, we have to work a little bit more now since they lifted the evictions, and so we're having more evictions to do right now, and sometimes they take 3 or 4 hours.
Our code enforcement guys aren't doing evictions in the city, are they?
Do what now?
Our code enforcement guys, they're not being used to do evictions in the city.
No,
Because I know in the past that we've helped out.
right. When,
They have their-
when Richard had been sick, I have asked him to help a time or two, but, Sheriff's Department's picked up some and helped me with some service here and there. I try to schedule evictions where I know that I've got a constable that's gonna be there to do them. And that gets back to, if things like that pick up, then it may be something I have to come back in and take part of the hours there and pay to a second constable where they can be working at the same time. But I hope to keep it under the same amount of funding that I've got there. I'm not planning on asking for any more funding.
When you use the sheriff's office, do you pay them a fee?
No, because the only time I use them is like on a Friday afternoon, when it's time for everybody's going home, they might come by and pick up a dispossession and take it and tack it to
I
a
didn't know
door.
if that was considered an additional duty for them that we were paying for them to cover. I don't have anything.
I'm done.
appreciate you helping us clean the county up. Supporting those code enforcement officers. And, I've told them, and I mean, obviously they work for Jason, but, whenever chance I get, and you've heard me tell them, I get it, they're out there to work compliance issues and encourage people to comply, but at the end of the day, if there's any questions, write the ticket and let you sort it out.
Well,
Trying to send more business your way.
thank you.
Let you make that decision.
That's just like I had a conversation with him the other day. He come in and he asked for the fines and fees. And I said, you don't need to quote nothing out in the field because that fines and fees can change once it gets into my office. So that's something that you don't need. And I think that's the thing. They've got to try to learn what they need to be doing.
They're not in the adjudication business.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, if it's somebody that is a constant that we've had to do in the past, of course their fines are going up from what our base fines are. And that gets back to if it gets down to the point that they just will not pay or they will not comply, then they can be jail time for it. And, I've had to be pretty still with a couple of them because of it.
Yes, ma'am. I hope I'm not one of them.
I hope not either.
Okay.
I hope you know either. I hope I ain't either.
There you go.
I'd just like to say I wouldn't like to be in court on a repeat code violation offense.
Good. Good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank all of you. Good enough. You want me to give you your pool back?
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I know it was a few months ago, but thanks for doing
we're missing the Constitution.
adult leadership ups with us. That was fun.
Glad to. Glad to. Anytime y'all need to use the courtroom, feel free
I
to.
think we knocked it out of the park.
Court or something.
You what?
I think we knocked it out of the park.
You talking
Well, I
about probate?
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anytime. Like I said, anytime you need my conference room,
Is it
I'll
in the email?
let us know ahead of time. We'll work around for it.
I
Bye.
assume I read an email, Alan, Jason, so
Yes.
Miss, we have two constitutional officers that aren't on here.
Can Danielle come
I
right
didn't.
now? Can Danielle come right now? If we can get Pam to wait 2 minutes for her to come down.
Well, we can knock out Pam and Robert in 2 minutes, and then she can.
Are you gonna knock
Don't say come.
I don't think you are.
Justin, don't do that.
She's on the board. She's on the board of elections, so I'm inclined to believe her.
No.
What page are we on?
Okay.
That would be page, budget starts on page.
Oh, okay, you got it here. Page 31.
And
You are so organized. I'm catching up.
Alan, I will say this is a great package,
oh, well,
greatly improved.
thank you.
I wish I'd had it before I went through this one all weekend long.
Now, the only other one we had was chisel and stone.
No, this is good. Okay, so 23% increase in wages and fringe.
Because I would like a part-time person. Yes,
How many you got now?
one,
One part-time, one full-time?
right. And myself.
Tell us why.
Well, we are busier. We've grown. Elections have grown and my office has not grown. The amount of absentee ballots have grown. We have to watch the ballot box inside the office. It's not outside anymore. It has to be watched by a person. So if me or Kelly are not in the office, somebody has to be there to watch.
Say that again now.
The ballot box
That's outside the office.
is inside the office
It's inside the office. Okay.
by the Senate Bill 202.
Right, so it's right there by the reception area. Is in the reception area when you come in?
Mhm. We still have to have a live person to watch it.
And that's changing the law.
That's to change the law, yes.
I mean,
So-
that's 24 hours a day?
Just from early voting, 8:30 to 5.
Well, you're staffed with live people.
Well, what?
You're staffed with live people.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like Ms. Lane works when early voting starts, she works at early voting. So it's just me and Kelly there in the office. So if I have to go help with LNA or anything else I need to help with, it's just gonna be Kelly. If she goes to lunch, who's gonna watch that box?
What's the cost of that person?
Well, they're gonna work part-time hours, like 16 hours, 16 to 20 hours on non-election years. And on election years, they're gonna, like, when we have early voting, they'll be working every day. Because they're also gonna be helping with absentee by mail. We've had enormous amount of absentee by mail that came in last year, and even in the governors in 2018. So we've increased a lot. The mail was a lot. I mean, we had.
COVID helped us out by being able to borrow.
Are you in the middle of court?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I can wait for a few minutes.
Can we take a pause from you guys and let's do the judge real
I
quick?
won't interrupt y'all.
So we can get her back up to court?
Y'all okay?
Yeah. Hey, look,
Go
Annie,
ahead.
That's all with the family?
Annie, I was gonna default to the
sorry,
person
y'all.
wearing the robe.
Yep. Something about that road makes you want.
Give me a moment.
I was
I don't
trying-
have any of my paperwork, so.
So what page?
I wasn't prepared for that one.
I just,
Hi.
Yeah,
say it anyway.
yeah, I'm having trouble with the table of contents stuff. Table of contents, getting the bill. It's,
There it is, page 44.
thank you.
Okay. So it shows an 8.3 bump in wage and fringe. Is this just taking into account the 1.75 and the 3
Yes.
that we're entertaining? So the 8.3 is fringe and,
That'd be the total, without looking at the detail.
okay. All right.
What about the office supply? That's increasing almost 78%.
So I have the detail pulled up, there's an increase, I don't know, did you have a comment?
Alan, it looks like it was based on a year, what we're projecting year-end 2021. Is that right?
For 2022 budget?
Yeah. It's like if, I'm looking on page 45
Yeah,
in the detail under office supplies, looks like the projected for this year, for whatever reason.
It's showing $18,000.
Yeah.
Was that inadvertently adding a 1?
no,
Because it went 8,000 budgeted, actual 8,400, and now we're jumping to 18,000.
940.
That's not.
That doesn't,
spent $18,000 in the office.
that doesn't sound right to you either?
No.
78%.
All right, well,
It's a lot of peanut butter.
find that $10,000 somewhere. Anything else jumping out?
well, the 10,940, now that figure, it altered the error. I thought I was matching your budget input on that.
Yeah, it ain't,
Oh, because he's looking at the line item, if you go on page 45, it's all the supplies.
yeah, it's 8,000, 8,400, and then projected 2021, it goes to 18,000.
Yeah, that's not correct. Just look at the budget column.
2022
10,000.
budget?
Correct, 10,940.
So you're expecting to go up $2,000.
Recall, again, I don't have my paperwork, I just actually grabbed it,
You
but.
just got the budget's 18,940, so you're expecting to go up 10,940.
Yeah, that's the way
Yeah, 18 not
it's
correct,
read,
I'll
but
tell you
he's
that,
saying
but
that's not the case. He
The
said
the
just-
10,940, I might have, I can't remember now, I might have come up a little bit because
That's right.
the cost of everything has been going up.
So that 18 may be, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's gotta be an error on my part.
Yeah, it looks like it just needs to be 10,940 and then that would balance that one out.
Yeah, that's what I think.
All right.
Yep.
That's always helpful.
Yeah, there's very minor changes in my budget this year as opposed to last year.
Yeah.
Legal documents and whatever, budgeted last year 1,500, we're year-to-date right now 1,400, and we're projecting at 8,000
No.
at the end of the year,
No.
2021. That's another one.
What, I'm sorry, we're.
Legal documents under other expenses,
It's showing a $7,500 increase.
yeah, 500% increase.
Okay.
That almost looks like it was, Jessica pointed out that may have been intended for the office supply budget, that 9,000.
That sounds more accurate.
Yeah.
All right, if we can just take a look at that, and
I don't think
then,
that
Furniture.
has changed.
I know
I think it's
that's-
1,500 still.
and then we're purchasing furniture,
That's if I have to, but
hopefully we don't have, we're getting ready to purchase a bunch of new furniture.
you're right.
So if you could, I would
Yeah.
encourage you to take that down to a zero if you could.
That's fine. You can do that. I'm fine with that.
All right, yeah, we're getting ready to purchase a bunch of new
Yeah, how many
furniture.
square feet worth of furniture? Yeah, no, I'm good. You can remove that. I'm absolutely fine with that.
And I like how you, on the revenue side, it looks like you've taken the fines and forfeitures, probate court fines, and broke them out by the individual.
Yeah, that was a suggestion that Alan made, and I thought that was pretty cool, so.
Good idea, Judge.
That's his idea.
Good idea, Judge.
Yes, thank you.
No, good
I wouldn't know
idea.
why you have it.
It helps break it.
Yes.
Break
I
it.
like
Yes, sir.
it. I like getting credit for Alan's ideas.
That'll help it. That's certainly gonna help in
That's
the
so
long
I'm going
run.
down and right now.
But your total fines and everything projected to be, about $110,000 more.
Of course, and like, Alan was talking about this, that, I never know how things are gonna
Yeah.
go. I can only guess. And things aren't going down, so I imagine they'll continue to rise as they are, so.
Okay.
I got a case full, a whole calendar full today. I think there were 73 on the calendar. I'll probably be here till about 7 tonight, so. I've kept them up there though, because I knew you all were doing stuff down here, so we
Okay.
were
All
using the
Well, in the
balcony up there
interest, in the
instead of.
interest of getting you back up there, is there anything?
No, let's take a look at those.
I think we're good. We appreciate your efforts. Appreciate the relationship you have with this board and the ability to work with these guys.
Y'all a good group to work with, so I don't have any complaints.
Say that again one more time for the camera.
You
No,
guys
I'm
are you
just
recording
kidding.
me? Yeah.
Okay,
You're
Great.
You're on YouTube.
We we look forward to working on this big project that we've got coming at us right now. So
That'd be,
it's an exciting time.
I appreciate y'all taking into consideration each one of our departments separately and what our needs are and size-wise and everything, so.
A lot of work's gone into that study already, and I know it's going to need some tweaking. And Jason and I talked about it, and Ben's intimately involved with it. So, you can trust that we will value engineer it at some point there when we start getting the bills. So we'll do our best.
I assume we're still gonna have more meetings on
Absolutely.
what's needed in each department and stuff like that. 'Cause I got some things that I've been thinking.
There's going to be I think we're calling it a validation process. So we'll get out the old plan with the new architects and go through it and
We're in the process of selecting the architect. So once we have them on board, we'll
shrink it by 35%.
Yeah.
Have y'all, need to ask. I'll wait.
So-
It's a question I was just gonna ask, I'll wait.
Okay, all right. Well, if you need anything, you call in, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Yeah.
Sorry about all the noise up there. I didn't realize how loud it was.
We haven't heard it.
I can hear it.
I just heard somebody yelling, walking over
They're
there.
marching, I mean.
Yeah, they were dancing.
But I'm literally sitting right here, so all the defendants are right here on y'all.
As long as we don't end up down here with
Yeah.
Before we go,
Okay,
Thanks, Jeff.
Before we go back to elections, now, do you think the same thing happened with her office supplies as what happened to us? Because the other one went up $10,000 too.
I've got notes to go check those.
Okay. Because, you know, she said, well, the cost of stuff went up, and I thought, yeah, okay, it did go up.
It was a big number increase, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a.
A round, we call it a
I think so.
rounding area. A rounding area.
Believe it or not, that will help.
Okay.
A dragon
It'll help
child
a little
makes it
bit.
up.
I'd like to
It will
ask
help.
one question as we step back into this one. What is the cutoff between part-time and full-time and the benefits and
32 hours. Right?
It's an average. So,
It's a, yeah.
and a quarterly average?
right, and I don't know what that number is, but Renee normally try to keep them around 20, no more than 27 hours.
Internally, now I think like the federal rule is 32, yeah.
So, all right, so we try to keep them under that, and anything above that, it's considered full-time, and then at that point, do we have any part-time employees drawing full benefits?
Yes.
Do you have a what?
I thought we mitigated that.
In which department? Oh, that's right, that's right.
It's something that we need to look at, I mean, because what is,
I think we've taken action on that, official board action on that, in
because
2017.
Because if you think about it, and what is the benefit of having a part-time employee with benefits? Unless it's just somebody that you gotta have, and you know, because you're likely paying somebody else to work those hours that they're not working.
Right, you know.
Could y'all just make a note of that and get
Sure,
back with
yeah.
us on that?
'Cause I thought we took an official board action in 2017 that any part-time employees were no longer eligible for full benefits.
Well, if an employee works over so many hours, we're legally required to offer them insurance.
I agree,
So that's what I was-
but I guess my next question is that if we're providing them full benefits, then they need to be working full-time. I mean, there's really, a big portion of their salary is, we're paying anyway.
Oh, did that?
I mean, it may not be a full 40% for fringe, but it's probably a significant number.
Yeah, and the one that our clerk just reminded me of, that's a joint, that person's in a joint project, so. Probably, I would imagine Sydney's probably not aware of that.
Probably a good topic for discussion at
We need to
a work
research
session,
that,
maybe a workshop.
because I'm confident that in 2017, we took official action by vote
I can
to end that.
sort of remember, I don't know, maybe when we took action, I don't know, perhaps if you guys would have grandfathered some folks in, because I think the 2 or 3 people we're talking about have been here for quite some time.
Well, I think what Commissioner Ellington is talking about is when part-time people were no longer eligible to receive sick and vacation time. This person is probably, I'm almost 99% sure they're not receiving vacation and sick time as a part-time employee. But because her average hours worked were over the number, we had to offer her insurance, and she accepted it. She took it. So.
Sounds like we just need to go back and look and see if there was.
I think in this case, it's literally one person that I'm aware of.
If y'all can just get that back to us.
And we'll go back and review whatever action y'all.
Well, we need some type of policy in place, because, I mean, what I don't want to see is a lot of these people are saying that they want to hire part-time people in the department, and then they wind up working them over.
Yeah, it's in our policy, I believe.
And then we wind up offering benefits to somebody that's working 32 hours a week for 2 quarters, and they drop back, and then they're working 32 hours again, so we just need to be mindful of that.
Yeah, it's our policy not to do that. I think Jessica just reminded us of one person that may have had an arrangement long ago.
Right.
Okay.
I'm about to get on the road.
If y'all could just get back with us at a work session or something like that, or if you just want to reach back out to us,
And we'll look up
Is it in an
the
email or
specific
something?
board actions too. Go back to the minute.
you know, just touch base with us.
Hey, no,
Okay, so we're,
I'm about to have to step out.
Yeah.
Head out.
yeah,
Just didn't want to interrupt and disturb everything.
Okay.
I'll get back up like y'all.
all right. Is there any, well, if you think of anything?
No, I'll just, again, reiterate this nice package that we have.
Yeah. He's got to run to a business meeting in north and east Georgia.
He gonna be pushing.
Yeah.
The planning commission meeting, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we before we broke in with the judge, we were talking about the need for a part-time employee in the elections office. And as we were sitting here, I got thinking, is there a way to mitigate that instead of having a part-time fully dedicated to the elections office? I mean, we've got needs across the board. Is there a way that when you need that part-time person, they can move over from another department?
That'd be something y'all need to decide, because. the
Well,
only
we
thing
can
I'm saying-
decide it. You may.
Well, I mean, I need somebody else, that's for sure, because we have.
For 30 hours a week. I mean, I get that, but what happens when it's not election time?
We still have things to do.
Good luck.
It's not like it used to be. We still have to, get the felons off and the deceased people. And we have to straighten up for every election. We have to, we transfer things to the record retention. We have things to do. It's not just we just sit there and twiddle our thumbs.
Nobody's saying that.
And then we do have to go to trainings. Trainings are ever going. Next year we gotta do redistricting, which is, I've never done that. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Brenda Dawson to come back in and to try to assist me with that, because I've never done it, and I wanna make sure I do it correctly. But then the part-time person would just help. It just helps to have somebody there during the times when Miss Elaine is not there, especially during election times, because we have to do ballots. Like the ballots were overflowing last year. There was actually Gary Self was one of the people that watched them open ballots, and he was like, I cannot believe they have 3 people have to open these ballots by hand, just like this. Everybody needs to see this, because it was just a lot. And then I have to pay those people that help me, unless they are already county employees.
But you're gonna pay them too. You're gonna pay them too.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna pay a part-time person, yeah. But if they're already there, then I have to have 3 people. I can't just have 2 or 1. It's gotta be 3 people there to do that. And somebody's gotta man the office and watch the ballot box. And if we have early voting, and oversee that also.
So you're gonna add a salary, 30 hours roughly,
Roughly.
to your office for 52 days, 52 weeks a year. And it seems to me that things go like this though.
What?
I mean, in your case, they go like this. Well, they go, and then it drops down.
Well, I mean, this year, we didn't anticipate having an election in January and in February, but we did. We never know. We never know if we're gonna have a special election. We never know what's gonna happen. I would rather be proactive than to not be prepared. I mean, I was not prepared for 2020. It just so happened that the county was shut down. I could use people, because if I had to do if my office had to do it, we wouldn't have made it.
But Jason, is there a way to hire somebody, I mean, and be a floater? I mean, I hate to say that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of our folks have done, especially from our office, are already doing that. So, and I know they count on a lot of the folks from our administrative team. You've already got that built in,
Right,
their time.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, that's we use aside from Jessica, who does double duty, we use Cherie, we use Amanda,
and Adrian. I use him.
Mm-hmm. So we try to meet or exceed their needs when, because their last few years have been very unpredictable, and then now also with the change in the law, I finally got some education at our conference this weekend about the changes that came as a result of our remind me Senate Bill
202.
202. And that was going to be a couple of questions I had too. But I know that our early voting days got extended.
Correct, we have 2 Saturdays that we have to work, so
How many hours a week does your current part-time employee work?
24 hours a week.
Would it not just solve the problem to go into a full-timer?
I don't think she wants full-time. I've offered it to her before, and when I became the election supervisor, and she did not want to work full-time.
And this is not a staff meeting, so, but it seems to me that there are other options. I mean, we've got unfilled part-time positions. If that position became a full-time position, then that person could be potentially repurposed to a part-time job somewhere else. I mean, if
The only part of that doesn't solve is during early voting, we have to have a staff member that goes to the civic center. It's gonna leave the office short.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, the reason I brought the elections folks in is that, you know, one of the messages that was loud and clear as late as Saturday for me is that
make sure you got your ducks in a row.
yeah,
And cover your,
measure twice, cut once. There's going to be, we are expecting an insane amount of scrutiny on this process moving forward. So it's a lot of people have taken an interest in the elections part of our organization in the last few months, and you know, as a part of that legislation, we're going to have an increased ability for people to poll watch and other things.
So then that opens up the flip side of the coin. Is it, we got part-time positions without benefits now, and with the salaries where they are. I mean, if we see the writing on the wall, we know that coming. Is how we're going to fill this job.
Well, one of the beauty of elections is that out of all the folks that employ part-time people, they do a much better job of recruiting because it's for the most part it's a position that community members like to serve. I mean, it's a very important role. So when poll workers, I mean, you talk about seasonal, but we have a lot of people that are willing to do that because of the nature of the work. I mean,
I put the cork in the water and it didn't go under. So if you want a part-time versus another full-time, you know, that's what I mean. I laid it out there.
We have a lot of folks in our community that really, if they're going to pick a place to either volunteer their time, which is basically what you're doing if you're a poll worker, we're minimally compensating you for it, or to work part-time in retirement, elections is one of the top places that we have people willing to do it. So I have confidence that they would be able to fill it as a part-time.
but you're saying, what was your,
that chip sale you missed.
that's fine.
I was going to say, look, and I get it. I mean, we want to make sure. None of us want to see Upson County in the news on that issue at all. So, what I was kind of alluding to, that if in the interest of making sure that you were able to hire someone who you had a lot of faith and confidence in, and it needed to be on the full-time side of the house, you might be just as inclined. You may win that argument with us. Maybe. I don't know. If you're hiring somebody to work 30 hours a week and the difference in hiring, is a few dollars more, I'm worried about your ability to be able to hire somebody in a part-time role to do what you just said you need to do to meet the standards that you just. But if you can do it.
Well, my only concern is, like Robert said, we do need, I still need my part-time person that I currently have.
I know, and I wasn't saying getting rid of that.
Okay, I was just,
Oh, no.
I was being, I
We
wanted to
were
be clear.
misunderstood.
I'm thinking you're like, well, why don't you?
That other fish got that. I'll put it out there, food for thought. But I want to make sure that we do it right. And to me, it's.
I feel like you got the resources to hire a part-time, and obviously you do because you're asking for it. Then that's the path we need to roll with. And then that way, that ain't working out, then you'll come back. But
Yeah.
one of the key
That's kinda
things
what
that's
I-
important to me is what the chairman said, is we want to do it right.
Right. Me too.
We don't want any, we don't want to be like some of these other counties in the state that have controversy. We want it right.
Zero controversy.
Me too. Me too. That's the
And,
goal.
and you have done it. You have set the bar high. You got to
Keep it that way.
you got to keep it that way. So, is there anything else with their budget?
No, sir, she had, obviously, in your stack of materials, she had a PowerPoint presentation to go over her budget, which was impressive, actually.
would like to have a mail opener to help with the ballots. That will cut down the time, to open ballots. So that's gonna be 1581.18, that's what we looked at.
That's legal, right?
Oh, that's legal. We're gonna have 3 people still, we're gonna have our 3 people sequestered and doing that, but
Is that specifically for ballots?
no, we can use it for other things, mail, any kind of mail. But it's not specifically just for ballots.
Is this something others in
Right.
other offices are using to help them?
Yes.
To be able to get the results out faster so Mr.
Okay.
Piper can go home earlier?
Well, we've been doing pretty good with that. I mean, we've been doing awesome with that.
You do good.
Oh,
Yes, I know.
so,
I just don't want you to buy something that somebody's gonna come in here and say, man, they cut that ballot in half.
Yeah.
well, and let me tell you, I'm gonna stress that, to make sure that they, get all of it down, run it through, make sure the ballots aren't torn or,
As long as it's something that the state elections folks
Yeah,
allow
well,
for.
we had training in August, another county, I wanna say it was DeKalb County. They had one kinda like that they used.
And they stay in the news.
Well, listen.
But not for
But
that.
not for that, not for like ballots,
Okay.
Yeah, and I just kinda went over the ballot paper that we have to get, how much that costs per, box. We have to get, $520 per box of ballot paper.
And wasn't that also a change in the legislation?
Yes.
Yeah, so they warned us about the excess cost for this now standard type of
Yeah.
paper that we have to use. Yeah.
So our budget is going up for election expenses. And when I saw it, I thought, okay, it's election year and this is a normal spike, but this from $11,000 to $50,000 is because of,
It's the governor's race. We could possibly have 4 elections.
okay.
So if we got, like this small election we just had for the city and y'all, it was like $15,000 for that smaller election, so.
Okay.
That's
Got some
amazing.
county commissioners
Yeah, it
in there
is,
this year
isn't
too.
Yeah, that's right.
And of
Okay.
course, there's an additional cost. The legislation requires us to now have uniform early voting days, which in our case increased our early voting days. So it's no longer an option. It's
Right.
now required.
Right.
And here's another thing too, that nobody's mentioned, but this new voting equipment, we have to warranty it now. And they offer us an option on warranting it, but the warranty to cover all of the BMDs, those voting machines where you actually go up and touch, is over $10,000 a year to warranty those.
All of it.
All of them.
How many?
77. But we had our older equipment, we had it for 18 years. And we spent a total of, over the course of that 18 years, we spent a total of $2,200 on maintenance for that equipment. Now, they offered warranty packages back then too, that we would have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars warranting that equipment all
Elections
those
have
years.
changed a lot since then. People will come in here and chew you up.
So they won't let you warranty half of them.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've got enough machines, I don't ever foresee an election we would have where we would have all 77 machines out.
Oh, okay.
So if we had 3 or 4 of them that tore up, we can cover that. And then we could pay as needed to.
So the
have
warranty
them
is just so
repaired.
that they can get you machines in to use while the others are being repaired. It's not to cover the cost of the repair, it's to get you a machine that you can hot swap with.
Yes, basically, that's what they were wanting
Okay.
to do.
All right.
But we only have one central scanner down there. So we got 77 BMDs, we can cover a few of those tearing up, is what I'm getting at. But our central scanner, it's $1,200 a year for maintenance on it, for a warranty on it. We need that. The server that runs the main stuff, we can't, I could provide the server down there for $500 for what, but we can't. We have to, I'm talking about the identical machine. But we have to buy it through them because it has to go through all that testing process and all that. But if that were to tear up, they will not replace it unless we have a warranty on it.
Okay.
And so what they're advising us to do is to go ahead and purchase one and have it like in cold storage, ready to go. And if that one were to tear up, we'd move it in there and go. So
One of the things that a couple of us have sidebarred and talked about because of redistricting, and we weren't around when the polling stations were established. Because of redistricting, is it a good idea for us to look at our polling stations? I mean,
based on the proposed county map that I saw, I don't think that would be an issue.
we still have people driving a long way to get to polling stations in some cases. You got to drive from, if you're in the Rock, it may be closer to Yatesville, but you have to go all the way to Hannah's Mill Road. Have y'all had any discussions about looking at some of this?
Well, when we combined our precincts, we were commended by the state for doing so. We were kind of dogged by the media for doing it.
What year did that happen?
It was 2015, I believe. So the first election was 2016 that we had combined.
Okay.
Now, we save.
I know.
We save about 20 grand a year which that number would be a whole lot more savings now for what we have to provide. If we were to add 2 more precincts to try to staff those, plus provide security at those, see, when we went from 9 precincts to 4, it was impossible to provide security at all those precincts. The sheriff didn't have enough people to do it. We just couldn't do it. Now it's pretty much.
Well, I'm not saying we need to look at 9. I'm just saying that, we're talking budgets. We're talking about the significant increase in the demands on staff and the accuracy of the machines and all that. Long-term budget.
That.
But is it the right thing to do? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the discussion y'all have. Y'all have the county maps. You have all that. It's just, I do know that, we've got people that, we consolidated. Some people drive a long way on election day, what's perceived to be a long way. In some cases, I don't know. I'm not trying to solve the problem. I'm just merely asking, is there a problem? So, and we've talked about it. That's the reason I brought it up. May not be this year's budget, but maybe next year's budget if we, because everything, anything that can be questioned about anything in government, it's going to be about elections first. And so is there?
I agree with that.
So is there? So if we can be ahead of something, I can see it. Accessibility.
Well, I just feel
Distant
like
travel.
we give people 3 weeks of early voting, 8:35.
There's a lot of people
Monday through
disagree
Friday.
with you.
I mean, on Saturday too,
I know, 2
And
Saturdays.
absentee by mail, like there's just so
I know.
much.
I know.
And we advertise it and they still say, well, I didn't know.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, what do we do? Bring it to your house? But anyway.
Okay. Anything else? appreciate what y'all do. You got a big task ahead of you this year.
Oh, yes, I do.
Redistricting, piece of cake, we got that
We're
taken care
gonna-
of. On our end.
Thank you.
We appreciate what y'all do too.
Thank you.
Sure do.
He's not gonna stick around and talk about that IT budget and that increase on the equipment side?
How much you got for that?
All right,
Wait a minute, hold on.
I'm not. Haley's next.
okay. Haley, 68, 69.
Alan, do they have the notes changed?
They do.
So you
Uh,
gotta, maybe not?
What do you want us to look
I
at?
don't know that I had notes from you, did
You did, but that's okay, it's in front of them.
I? Yes.
There
Glad
was
you did.
one for each of y'all for those.
Is it in this book?
No.
And
What do you have?
Just passing them out.
Wait, I'm gonna sit down, I can't.
The,
We're running a little late, though.
we'll catch up. We, tax commissioner coming to us?
No. Due date,
What's that?
due date.
Due date.
Today's
Yeah, right here.
tax bill.
Oh. Oh, somebody correct me? I'm not-
you look, that's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, make sure I get it in.
You want some extra
For
copies?
our
or-
final.
What are we getting here?
So that is the notes, kind of any increases that I put into the budget, and the other one's just the printed budget.
What are these?
The
Well,
printed budget.
You have, you can.
This is in our book?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just need
Yeah, that's the important thing.
the footnotes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could tee this one off, obviously Haley's got a story that I'm anxious for you to hear. But Haley and I have been discussing for months, well, I guess for months now.
Since August.
Yeah, and then of course, really, since she and I both started, we're both still fairly new. One of the things I noticed very early on in my tenure as manager here is that our 4-H program, well, we basically almost didn't have one. And so, you know, I started talking to Haley, and she had, I mean, more ideas on how to fix that than I ever had experience deploying. So, you know, fast forward, we have a robust 4-H program that's busting at the seams with a lot of people anxious to do a lot of fun things, and we want to try to deliver more of that programming. A couple of the things that have hampered us to implement any sort of long-term strategic goals were the fact that at least on the extension side, we share Haley's time with the neighboring county in a three-way agreement with the state. And Haley and I have been talking recently about, you know, what would we meet and exceed our former glory in 4-H and in other programs, in our ag programs, if we were to go back to having a full-time agent rather than splitting time with the neighboring community. You know, if we were able to have all of her attention back, would we meet or exceed our goals for the summer camps and for some of the other programs? Those are the ones that are near and dear to me that she helped me work on over the summer. So we had some high-level talks, and I think that the chairman and I even had a brief discussion with the chair in Lamar County and their manager. So we kind of put Haley to work to come up with a proposal, and it sounds like that you obviously given the board's approval for the budget side of it, we might be able to get this done, because it sounds like Lamar is on board with us now. So I say all that to say, you know, Haley's got a good story to tell about the growth in the programs and the well, and even her engagement on the ag side. So I mean, it's a great story. They're providing an outstanding service, in my opinion. So I asked her to put together a budget based on, her growing her programs, and then so we could have this discussion with y'all. So I'll leave the specifics to her if you don't mind, but 'cause she tells the story a lot better than I do. But.
Well, so in my salary portion, there's actually a couple different portions to it, and I listed them out under the wages and fringe portion at the beginning. So the first part is, so we currently have an AmeriCorps member position. So that is a federal grant. The county puts up a very small amount, which we put up $2,000 for it, to bring in a part-time student. So this one's a college student. And their whole purpose is to help increase our program. So they are, Trudy, which she was a 4-H'er, she started in Upson County 4-H when she was 3 years old and graduated through it. But so she's here now and she's leading our homeschool club. She is now in the middle school, which as far as I know, we've never been in the middle school doing club meetings. I mean, maybe years and years down the road we were before FFA was there, but once FFA came in, 4-H no longer went to the middle school. So now she goes once a month and does the program there, as well as Clover Buds. So we're hitting our kinder through 3rd graders, which the biggest reason we tried to do that is with the summer camp this summer, we had a lot of kids in that age range. And to me, because I was at camp every single day, I was worried that we were going to lose those kids. And so her whole purpose was to help expand that portion to hit the younger kids, because before we were just doing 4th grade and up. So we've got Clover Buds going on, we've got homeschool, we have middle school activities, and then she's continuing some of the programs that we've done in the past, like pea nutrition. She's going to do milk make and different after-school programs for the kids. So the first portion in there is to continue the AmeriCorps position, being that UGA gets the grant. Typically what happens, at least from my understanding, is that once you've gotten an AmeriCorps, you're kind of on the top of the list to be able to get it again. I know that it is going to increase on the federal side as well as on the county side, so I had put in for $3,000. So with the grant, the way the AmeriCorps position works is they start September 1, and then they finish off August 31st. And so they know that it's just a 1-year thing, but they can continue as long as you've got the position available. We don't necessarily have to continue with the same person. We can always bring in somebody else. But, I mean, once those programs are established here, I would hate to lose them at the end of the year. So that's the first increase in salary and wages, is to be able to continue that AmeriCorps position. The second one is for a part-time 4-H program assistant. And I've got some numbers if y'all are interested in them. I'll let y'all know. These are some of them are from 2015, and from 2015 to now, and the numbers that we're doing in 4-H, and it's all just one packet. Each of them are by the year, so I don't know who wants to look at them. If you want to look at all of them together. So back in 2015, we were hitting, let's see our number, we were hitting 1,921 students total.
Per
4-H.
year?
For the year. For 2015 for the entire year. So now let's fast forward. And so, I don't know who wants to look at this.
No, just, that's.
Okay, this is fine? Okay. So that was 2015. So that was before I was here. So I've given y'all every single year since then. So we've got 2015 was the 1921. 2016 we were hitting 2,347. In 2017 we were hitting 824. In 2018, so you'll notice there's different colors. I'm super anal when it comes to organization, I apologize, but the purple means before I was here in extension. And then the yellow is when I was here, but I wasn't the department head yet. I just started in 2018, so that's yellow. And at 2018, we were hitting 6,931. So we had started, we were building our program. That's when we started implementing more of like the ag programs, some other additional activities. Myself and the 4-H educator both started that year. She was actually 2 educators ago, but we were implementing new programs. 2019, when I became CEC, we were starting to hit 7,236. That's face-to-face. That's not including our phone, our written, our indirect, and then our sub-reporting. So these are reports that I actually have to submit to the state. They pull these in the sub-reporting section. So in the reporting is how many activities that we do, how many kids we individually hit based off of programs that we have planned. Sub-reporting is activities that other people have planned that we've been a part of and we've still reached those students. And so in our sub-reporting, we had 7,561. So that was 2019. 2020, we took a little hit because it was COVID, right? But in 2018, we still reached 5,098 students, and our sub-reporting was still at 4,959. And so that was during COVID, and we were still able to reach that many students. We cannot just make up numbers and put them in. These are numbers that have to be documented. We get audited not only financially, but as programmatic as well. So we've got records on all of these if y'all want to see which students we were hitting. And so that was 2020 during COVID. Now, 2021 still had some issues with COVID. We really didn't get to kickstart majority of our programs until this summer. But as of the first of the year until now, we have hit 6,207 with our sub-report of 7,768. That is with myself as part-time and our 4-H educator. We have way more students than that we're not reaching. And so what I would like to do in conjunction with the camp is to have a camp director and have them be there. So this person, the part-time program assistant, would be the head of the camp. Because this last year, I was the head of the camp. And in order to do my ag job, I gotta have a little bit of time somewhere, right? I mean, I can't go and pull hay samples when I've got to run because there's an issue at camp. And so the purpose of this person, and I've got people in mind that I think would do really well with it, is for them to lead the camp, but then not just be here during June and July, but to continue them throughout the year. So in my budget, I had put in for them to have about 25 hours a week throughout the normal year, so that would be January to May. June and July, they could get up to 35 hours a week so that they could run the camp. And then August through December, they would go back down to 25. During the regular year, aside from camp, they would be increasing programs after school, being able to go on more trips with the kids, and be able to, there's so many things 4-H offers that we're not able to do because we don't have the manpower to be able to host those and get the kids there. So the purpose behind this person is to add more programs than what we're currently doing to hit some of those different areas. For example, right now we've got poultry judging, cotton boll and consumer judging, project achievement, stuff like that. Well, we've got kids in the community that want to do an anime club. Well, if we have somebody to run it, why wouldn't we do something that these kids are interested in? To get them away from going home and taking care of little brother and sister and not being able to see mom and dad until they get home, and get them somewhere so they can be a kid and they can do something they're interested in. So, that's my proposal, is to get that person here, to be able to not only do programs after school, but to run that summer camp as well. I don't know, have we talked about summer camp at all?
On the rec side we have, but it's been months, so.
So with summer camp, the plan is for it to be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. In order to do that, you've got to have somebody there to be able to run it and be in charge of not only those kids, but those camp counselors. I had a heavy dose of reality with camp counselors this year because they're all high school kids. So it's like doing 4-H, but then you've got kids that are in charge of other kids, and you've got to have somebody there to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to. So in my proposal for the 16,000, which is a little bit more than what it would be, I had sat down with Alan to see kind of what the rate would be, and I bumped it up, not much, it ended up being 15 something total, but we just rounded it up to 16,000. Any questions on that?
Getting back to the camp, the wonderful thing about that camp is that it's cross-pollinating all of our rec people with all of our 4-H ag people and so forth. So we've got the folks from Haley's program are getting introduced to all the programs we have at the Civic Center, and vice versa. The Civic Center folks, and that's really the big part, is that they got exposure to some things from Haley's programming over the summer that they've never seen or heard or touched in their entire life. And that is what's really exciting, is that we've got a lot of untapped potential with our youth when it comes to ag and other things, and they just don't have the opportunity maybe to do that if we don't provide the programming.
So is,
I see it as we talk about so much when it comes to development, planning, zoning, about maintaining our rural integrity and our ag integrity. I see this as the other core function of that, is that, I think without these types of programs, we would tend to become just another South Metro community unless we provide folks the opportunities to continue what this community has traditionally done.
so that's what these two questions are centered on. One is UGA or the folks up there going to support us pulling out of Lamar County and having you full time?
I told you that question was
So
coming.
that's the next one. So this one, what we were talking about with summer camp has nothing to do.
No, I'm
with
talking about, so
Now we're
the
about
big
the
part of
big-
it,
okay.
so the big part of this is, because of the cost associated with.
Bringing me.
Yes, we
Yes.
gotta pay for you full time.
Yes.
Instead of sharing the cost with Lamar County. And that cost was,
20,000. So Lamar County actually technically pays more of my salary than Upson County does. I am in Lamar County 2 days a week, and then depending on if I've got to pull samples. So the way that my week goes is Monday through Friday. I try to be in Upson County Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because not only am I the ag agent here, but I'm also the department head. Now, I'm not the department head for Lamar County. The 4-H agent is. So I try to be here majority of the time. Now, if somebody's got forage samples that I've got to pull, if they have a tree that needs to be diagnosed, depending on the day, if somebody's only available in Upson County on Tuesday, well, then I'm going to meet them on Tuesday. And if they're only available in Lamar County on Wednesday, well, then I'm going to meet them in Lamar County.
so
Wednesday.
are they receptive to the idea?
So, have y'all ever heard of an educator within Extension? So there's an agent, which is my position, and then there's an educator, which is what we've got with 4-H. So what I've talked to them about is having an educator over there. So that educator would be mentored by the local agent, or the closest agent, which would be myself. They would get all of the contacts that I've got. They would get all of the programming that I've had in the past, which anybody in that position would. And I've sat down with Lamar County, myself, the CEC over there, the county extension coordinator, Octavia, and Sean and Charles. We all sat down, had a discussion about it. And to me, it's not fair to either county what's going on right now. I mean, I'm not here full time. I'm not there full time. I get phone calls all the time saying, "No, she's never in office." Well, I am, depends on which office. I mean, I encourage people, don't call me on the office phone, because more than likely not going to get it immediately. Call me on my cell phone, because I could be in one office, I could be in the other office, or I could be out in the field. So they are receptive and said, had the go ahead. And so we didn't do anything until I had told Jason that they were fine with it moving forward. But they're fine with having an educator if UGA can provide that. The next conversations would be to have it with UGA. They know it's coming. I've had the conversations. I have not sat down and said this is 100%, because I cannot say that until y'all say that.
Yeah, I know they know about it because I saw them in Savannah this weekend, so they know.
They do.
Chatters. The other question I have is, when I grew up a few years ago, 4-H was in the schools, but we have 4-H program over here in this building. Why can't we get in the schools where the students are?
We are.
You
So
have
we go to every
classrooms over
single
there?
place. So this year.
You have dedicated space over there?
So last year we were meeting in the media center, and I was actually having to cover because I didn't have somebody for a period of time. This year we're with the STEM teacher, because the school system's trying to get their STEM certificate. So we meet every single 4th and 5th grader at Upson Lee, and now every kid that has been enrolled in our 4-H club at Upson Lee. And then this year we've also gotten into the private school. So we go to Skipstone, we see every 4th and 5th grader in Skipstone, as well as every 6th, 7th, and 8th grader in Skipstone.
Well, the purpose of my question is, I'd love to free up this space down here and have you, at least the 4-H programming side, in the school.
Oh, like it's housed over there?
Having the class, what you have over here, but have it in the school system, as opposed to having to, because you transport kids to this building, don't you?
We do. We have a bus that we take.
I know. So wouldn't it be easier for them to stay there? They're in school, go there and.
To have the staff over there?
No, I'm talking about the space.
Oh, just to have a dedicated 4-H room that we could use at any time?
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Make it easier for you, wouldn't it? If all your 4-H stuff is where your customers are.
It would, but then also getting them over here, we're able to kind of showcase some of the other parts of Upson County as well. So I don't know of any 4-H in the state that has a dedicated space in the school system. There are some that have an ag facility. It's not through the school system, it's through the county. I don't know of anybody that is on school grounds.
Okay.
100%. Now, what would be great, actually, somebody just came into my office right before I came up here, talking about the new barn. I mean, I'm sure y'all have all heard about the new barn that's supposed to be breaking ground in February for the school system. So now we could do programs in there. They're supposed to be getting a classroom. That's the plan, to get a classroom over there that we could utilize. I know the STEM teachers focus on ag right now over there. So, I mean, we could always do different curriculum, but the way that Georgia 4-H is kind of designed is to kind of get together with a teacher and be able to piggyback on each other and work together. I mean, having a space there would be awesome. Having all of our stuff over there, I don't know if that would be ideal.
Just spitballing ideas because, you know, we have a shortage of space, a perceived shortage of space. And anyway, this is, we're well beyond our time for this, but y'all have any questions? I mean, this is a $59,000 increase over the budget from the prior year.
Yeah, if y'all need numbers about my position in reporting, I've got those as well.
So if we proceed as presented this budget, I mean, and UGA comes back and goes, yeah, well, we can provide that, but we can't do that until April of next year. Well, I mean, how quick is it going to take for them to make a decision? I mean, because it's fruitless for us just to make the decision and it be dependent upon.
How quickly would it be? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, the biggest thing would be deciding on if y'all would want this to continue until Lamar County found a position.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I think that Commissioner Ellington brings up a great point. So what we would be doing essentially is earmarking the funds for the change, but there's certainly no guarantee the change would happen, and the way we prescribe it, or at least for the timing anyway. So the next steps would be if y'all agree to the funding proposal, then we go back to the state and Lamar County, because it's a three-way commitment that has to be unwound. So and to unwind it, we may have to make a commitment to Lamar County that we won't do anything major until they have a position filled. So
regardless, the last contract between the three counties was back 2014, 2015. The most relevant name on there is our current DED, District Extension Director, and he retires on November 30th. Every other name is no longer in that position. Wes Smith has retired, Rusty Blackson is no longer on the board. I couldn't read the name of who is Lamar County, but they're no longer on the board as well over there. So, I mean, regardless, there has to be some sort of contract mapped up, because what is stated in that contract is not happening right now.
but yeah, so I think to answer Commissioner Ellington's question specifically, more than likely we would need to amend it into next year to fit the actual, either the timing as it was presented, or if the programming is tweaked a little bit based on the arrangement we end up with UGA and or Lamar County. It sounds like Lamar County would be okay, but yeah, so this is just to make sure that we wouldn't obviously move forward unless y'all adopted it as part of your budget.
So no, this is proposed as if I was to start January 1, which there's no way that would happen.
Yeah. But we don't really have a good estimate as to when, so it's a place marker. I think the best way we could say.
I think I'm perhaps missing $2,500 for this last paragraph. I need to put in here the program and events.
Yes, so it's the last bullet point, or the last.
Yeah, I don't think I captured that in the budget.
It should be under other expenses.
Yes, not. If you look at the second page, the detail of other, it's not in there. So that makes a little bit of a difference, $2,500.
Yes, so that is in the one that I printed for y'all.
Okay, I see.
You guys have hit us with a lot here to digest, and
As far as changes, this is probably the biggest change in any department, from organizational structure and sort of deployment of services. So, even though it's it's a small dollar amount in comparison to other departments, it's a large percentage of their overall budget.
So I know sort of on the programming side of the house, I mean, I get that, but on the ag side and your normal, you know, what are you going to be able to, do you think you'll be in a position to deliver better service to our farmers here in Upson County if you?
Well, I would, because my time wouldn't be split between the two counties. So currently, program-wise,
Teed that up for you perfectly.
you did. Now, if you want those numbers, I've got those for you.
Well, yeah, you don't have to go through them if you
Yeah,
just
we'll
want to
take
give them to us. So,
So right now, program-wise, every single month I do a lunch and learn. So that hits, so ag is not just farmers. Ag is homeowners as well. A good percentage of the questions that come in are about their grass,
Okay.
about insects, about trees. I mean, I've got the farmers and I go and do those programs on Saturday if y'all are wanting to. We've got a cattle repro class over at the sale barn. We just finished a master small ruminant program at the sale barn here in Upson County. Traditionally in the past when I've done hay days or Bailage field days, those have been over in Lamar County because I've got to do even programming between the two of them.
Okay.
So all of that programming over there will now come here if I'm here 100%.
okay. So the answer is yes.
Yes, and if you want the number of contacts of people that I see, those thousands of numbers are in that report as well. And I have them color coded based off of the counties and the years.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for? We appreciate your energy and appreciate your stuff with the programming. I came through the Civic Center that day when the kids were running around like wildfire. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, we missed your grandkids at Kids
I
Cattle
know,
Camp.
I wasn't able to get her over there. So.
But I do want to put a side note to the camp. The purpose behind having this program assistant is because we're going to continue to do other programming. I mean, we do Kids Cattle Camp, we do summer ag vacation, we take them on different trips to older kids. So that's why we want somebody in that position so that we can not only hit those younger kids, but hit the older ones as well and continue the programs that we've done.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Sure, it was all your fault.
It is. Just search my name in your email and you'll find it.
Not
I'm
worth it.
sorry.
Good.
Okay. This last, but certainly not least, 70 and 71.
Yeah.
We'll make this quick. No. No, just kidding.
Second.
Oh, adjourn.
It would save us a lot of work. A lot of work for
Just
next
tell
year.
Three Rivers they're doing our comp plan.
Yeah.
No. We need to do some work on that comp plan. Serious work.
Now, we got some serious money in that budget for serious work.
Okay. Well,
Page 70.
yeah. So, nothing outside the norm as far as wages or benefits, no changes, we're not adding staff, we're just,
Not for next year.
okay.
We gotta digest the new folks we got now.
So, professional services, that's where the biggie is. So, professional services, and it cuts it off, what is is that comp plan? Or what is that?
There are basically three components to it. There was a memo that Alan requested October 25th that I sent to him. I think he
Is
got
that in this book?
Should be.
Yes. It's a yellow tab.
But yeah, just to hit the highlight of that memo for the consulting services, we need to focus in within the next few months about what we're going to do. There are some outstanding questions about the comp plan. One, what jurisdictions are being included in it? I think Jason got a preliminary answer from the city that they would once again like it to be a joint plan. I think we need to think about that. I think the nice thing is that allows it to be Upson County's plan, and we can do with our plan what we want to do with our plan.
the complicating factor that I don't quite understand, just based on my history, is when we forwarded and were working on the broadband amendment, DCA said, oh, don't worry about Yatesville. If they don't get it done on time, well, that's up to them. Well, if it's a joint comprehensive plan, one would think that all three jurisdictions have to amend it at the same time or close to it. So I'm a little puzzled by what DCA told us there. So does that mean if we had a joint plan again, we could amend it as we want without consulting the municipalities? Or is it different for the whole, it's a little confusing. But anyway, so one of the first questions is, do we do a joint plan or do we go on our own and just a county plan, knowing that at least a short-term answer from Russell was that he would like it to be joint again. I'm not sure we want to go that way, but that's for policy discussion, you know, to decide. Obviously, there would be monetary implications if it's a joint plan versus us on our own. The figure came from a ballpark figure from Wood, our current as-needed consultant. We never really nailed down comp plans. Of course, we haven't worked on a scope and fee for what this would be. We would want to start working on that maybe March or April, something like that. If Wood, if that's another choice, there's an assumption that we would go with Wood, but we wouldn't have to go with them. We could go with another consultant. But they gave us some figures in an email of large plans that they had done, and it was in the 160, 180 category. So that 100,000 is just maybe a placeholder until we have a scope and fee. It's also not all of it. This would be a 2-year project. I would anticipate that we would start no later than maybe August of 2022, and maybe as early as June. I mean, that's sort of a consultant working with us to decide when the start would be. But your comp plan is due in June of 2023, and it's traditionally 10 to 12-month process to develop a fairly comprehensive comp plan with some quality to it. And if you want the public involvement, that I don't think we can achieve what Heart and Soul did. That was basically an all-out public participation, but we would certainly like to have a fraction of what they had in terms of participation with the comp plan, and I would expect with a consultant on board, that would be part of the task, is to get that participation.
So comp plan, continued engagement with Wood or someone like Wood to help us with ordinances?
Correct.
And then
there's a figure in there. Our building official was extremely concerned when he lost his assistant, and it was not our goal, and we did not hire 2 code enforcement officers to do what Jeremy was doing. Jeremy was anywhere, depending on when, 25 to 30% of his time was assisting Thomas. Thomas doesn't have that help anymore. That concerned him. Jason and I had a discussion, would we hire somebody part-time? We certainly didn't discuss full-time. And Jeremy never did 50%. He gave me figures. It was never half-time. But it was in the 25 to 30% depending. So what we discussed was, and the figure came from Thomas based on a consultation with Jason, was about $35,000 for an as-needed consultant, that when Thomas is choking on his, not plan reviews, but on his inspections, that he would be able to, and we would go through a hiring process, get them on board as we did with a planning consultant. And if he saw, wow, next week I've got 1 day and I can't get to all those inspections, a CO inspection can take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. And that's a large block of Thomas's time if he's doing COs. And as you know, it's not predictable. You can get a chunk of houses, and I mean, you could get permits, 20 permits at one time, and those tend to get inspected all at the same time if it's one of our regular developers, or it can, be hit and miss. It just depends. So this would not be something would necessarily be regular, but it would be on a spot, as needed basis. He would bring their inspectors in. We would go through a selection process before that so that he would have them, we would have a contract with them, and he could bring them in whenever he felt it was needed.
Now, this is one of the areas, where recruitment is darn near impossible. This is, we thought the consultant route would probably be a much better solution here than trying to come up with someone to do it part-time. Now, this is also considering that, the board is adamant that we have certified people doing this work. Now, we obviously have someone that can and does from time to time fill that position in absence of our previous code enforcement officer, which had gotten some formal training in that respect. But the person that acts as Thomas's backup that's currently on our staff is not a certified inspector of any kind.
And would we still have him assist? Absolutely, that would not change.
Yeah.
But depending on what the workload is, and obviously Phil has his own workload, he's got his own job to do. And on any given time, or once in a while, they may be on vacation at the same time. So,
Which was, I think I even had a discussion with the chairman when that occurred.
So that's what
we had a few days October.
35,000 in that budget would be for that.
And again, earmark. I mean, you maybe don't use any of it, or maybe you use all of it.
Correct.
But it would we'd be enabled to have a consultant on staff to help with basically just inspections. We would still Thomas would still be doing the brunt of the plan review.
And other than code officers, as you know, we don't have duplication. There's not another zoning administrator lined up. There's not another inspector. Phil can fill in as best as he can. But, we had a COVID issue in our office. If we could have a worse in theory. So let's have backup. I mean, it's a very good idea to have backup. Maybe it's something worse than just, I'm really busy next week, could you come in? So maybe we have somebody lined up, got a contract with them, and for a week or two, whatever the situation is, they can come in maybe full-time and help in that emergency situation. We've got that with Wood for me. I'm not sure how it would work out, but it's in their contract that if something happens to me, if my COVID had been worse than it was, that they could have come in for or they were contracted to come in for 2 or 3 or more weeks to fill in while I was out. And let's maybe do something. Obviously, Phil can do the job, but we would have some backup if he didn't have the ability for whatever reason, or he was overwhelmed.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask a question. Doug, where did you get the $35,000 figure?
Spitballing?
Because I just don't think that's. I mean, most of these companies that do this, I know when we had looked at it into the past, is to do it on a full-time basis was a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, how comfortable are both of you guys with this $35,000 figure?
I'm comfortable because Thomas was happy with that number, and obviously he's had a whole career in construction, and he was comfortable. Actually, we started 30, and he thought, a little more, 35. So if I put full my confidence in Thomas that that's something he was.
So you're gonna submit an RFP, go through the RFP process, and would you make that part of? Well, I don't know. I'd be curious if you get any takers that are willing to do it on a part-time basis. That's one concern. The other concern I have, and one of the things that we talked about a lot, was bringing a contractor in and not having that personal relationship and some flexibility. Now, I understand these people will be working for Thomas and being engaged by Thomas, but I would have some concerns about consistency, working relationship, public perceptions.
The nice thing is we have a 1-year experience with one of the companies that would probably bid, and I was an expert at working with them because I had to do half that job. I was the paperwork guy, and all they did was the inspections, and the clerk at the time did the scheduling of the inspections and communicated that to that company, and they were pretty steady. We had our regular inspector, but then when he was on vacation or was overwhelmed with inspection on his roof, yes, there would be a substitute that they could plug in.
And the only other comment I'll have on that is, one of the things I feel like that we have far exceeded the mark that we set out for ourselves was Thomas and building inspections. And I understand he's strapped on time, so
he set the bar high. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So succession planning for
him
when he leaves. So this is a Band-Aid, not a Band-Aid, but this is something to help him when he's strapped for time. But a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever the time is, we're going to be having a conversation about how do you find somebody like him. And it's one thing to get somebody that can look at plans and go and do inspections. It's another thing that has somebody that has the soft skills and the personality to work with some pretty demanding people from time to time. So, you know, I want to see us work on that succession plan. And I wasn't, all truth in lending, I wasn't a big fan of the last succession plan that we had, because we weren't all in. You know, you're running here and you're running there, and we you know, if you got to do two things, you're probably not going to do either one of them really well. Code enforcement, building inspections. So we were just
Hitting high spots.
yeah. So let's you know, and it's not going to be solved in this budget, but for future for thinking down the road, think about Thomas Jr. I hate to say it. Call this project Thomas Jr. TJ. Find somebody and grow them. But you know, I guess I know we can't be in a situation where we're stopping progress because somebody's out of the office.
Which is extraordinarily rare, but it did happen this year, and it was COVID related, obviously, but it did happen. So,
yeah,
you know, our chief person and our backup person were both out with COVID.
So I mean, I know your office is extremely busy. I think there was one other thing on the back here where it was talking about vehicles. We really got to talk about vehicles. No. This is demolition, something near and dear to our heart. So you got it in the budget to reinstitute our demolition projects.
The very, what I think is a relatively small increase was sort of enlightened by the 7 or 8 demolitions that Jeremy did. He pretty much exhausted that year's budget. Of course, 2 of them were on our own. One was our own trailer, and the other one's on our property, so we actually saved a little money. The eye-opener there was the cost of the asbestos inspections, and then if they find it, the removal. We paid in the thousands of dollars more than was anticipated for that removal. And that's a case of, I mean, you don't know until you get somebody in there to check it out. You don't know what that cost is going to be.
Right.
Now, I consider that a modest increase because right now, of course, we got new officers on and we're trying to get them ramped up. I cannot promise any demolitions this year, and you understand from a personal standpoint what the issue was, is we came to dead stop for a couple of months there. And then these new we didn't hire any seasoned code enforcement officers. While they had been in enforcement of some sort, they hadn't done code enforcement. So this has been an eye-opener. We've been fortunate that the GACE, the next professional organization training, was almost immediately after they got hired, so we were able to get their feet wet with professional training fairly quickly. But unfortunately, we probably lost this year from almost anything in demolitions. Hopefully next year we'll hit the ground running, and Jeff will feel a little more comfortable. And he and Pascal, I think we all found out earlier this year, that officer, Pascal, and the magistrate judge need to be basically a team to get these things done. And that wasn't quite done that way in the past. Let's have that in the future. There have been conversations. Jeff has had multiple discussions with Pascal, and I think he's met with Jan a couple of times. So that relationship, that team is starting to gel.
I think I can speak for the board on this, is let's make sure we dot the I. It's one thing to go out there and get the property cleaned up, get the building taken out, but we got to make sure that we dot the I, which in this case is assign the lien, so that, you know, taxpayers can hopefully recoup some of the cost of this at some point. But,
now, Mr. Chairman, I refrained from saying anything the first time, but I just want to make sure, I'll speak for myself and the entire staff, that process from the beginning was done in 100% concert with legal.
I understand. I understand. So we just got to make sure that you know, it's not a siloed type approach. Everybody's working one thing, and it's from snap of the ball until the play is over. The play is over when the lien is assigned to the property. So we'll work on that piece too. Obviously.
And Mr. Chairman, I need to reference this too, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Creekside Road, Drive. We have an extreme problem there.
Is it budget related?
It is in that we may have to do things other than demos. We may have to clean up the property, and that's the Creekside example. If you've seen photos, there's debris everywhere, and Jeff, in trying to work with the owner, pretty much figured that he was just rotating this stuff around.
Do us a favor, bring that to us in the form of a workshop. You know, I mean, I know it may affect the budget, but yeah, I'm interested in that. What you found, but we just want to get this budget done today. I think it's been a long afternoon already, so appreciate everything. We've come a long way in with everything under your umbrella, and a lot of that stuff that's on our dashboard is underneath your umbrella. And I hope you know that we're willing to put our money where our priorities are, because our priorities are their priorities, and get the stuff done. So,
Absolutely.
you know, whatever tools you need to make it happen within reason.
Thank you for your support.
Anything else?
Yeah, I covered it. Man, clean it up.
Clean it up, dot the I, cross the T, go to the next one. All right, Jason, you have anything else, Ralph? I mean, so where are we with
We got to
Final-
a few minutes of high level stuff.
final review of
You want to take us back?
the
up a
entire?
little bit?
Well, there are other areas that we have not gone through. You've just bought the ones to us that you felt like maybe were outside of the curve.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you feel
biggest
comfortable with-
changes. We brought you the biggest changes.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
But can we do 5 minutes of just the
Yeah.
like a high level wrap up?
Yeah.
Can you do
Yeah,
it in 5
and I'd really like to, I mean, I know Alan and I talked a little bit about it, was, you know, revenue estimating. We talked about revenue estimating. And the one question I had when I was looking at the budget and revenue projections is, what percent of collections did we use to estimate property tax revenue?
99%.
99? But
And the way we do it is that for 1 year we budget for collecting on prior year digest as well in small percentages.
yeah, so.
But
I was having fun. So 2020, we were at 93.
that's right. That's just when they stopped and did the audit. But generally, you know, you go another 12 months once everything's past due.
Yeah,
It gets to 98 something. So,
Okay.
yeah. And then if it goes another, then once we go through the property sales, then you're at 90.
So that's the biggest, one of the biggest differences in how things were and how they are now. In the past, it was generally estimated around 80%, isn't that what we came in at when they were estimating the budget? 80% collections, and now we're, so, all right. So not a lot of room for error.
For not collecting. Well, I guess the other component to that is that we've got healthy operating reserves, which enables us to actually put a budget together that represents what we anticipate the revenue will be. You know, I can certainly understand 5 or 6 years ago, previous administrations wanted to be that conservative with revenue estimates because they had no operating reserve, so you had to rely on what was coming through the door.
So, real quickly, 5-minute rundown. If you go back to pages 3 and 4. If you look at the other pages, which I won't necessarily reference, but the largest increases in terms of the type of expenditures that we have in our current year budget over the prior year come from wages and fringe, special appropriations, and professional services.
What are special appropriations?
So special appropriations are basically all those appropriations. If you go to, actually I can go to it here in the budget better on the slide. Those would be things like the appropriation for 911, rec center, Squirrel Bluff, community parks, yes, gosh. Okay.
Basically like an increase in the subsidy to those programs.
Yeah. Subsidies, if you want to call it that.
Because
So-
those programs are either joint projects or they're in their own
Right.
funds with offsetting revenue.
So that's on your page 27. So, you know, the big items are obviously IDA, the health department, rec appropriation, other parks. Those are the big ones. Of course, the
This is a great table.
health department and the memorial library, all those things were part of the mid-year budget that was approved, provided to us. So when you see the IDA, that's effectively our 65% roughly of their IDA's budget for 2022. Shaka did budget up on.
That's the operational side. That's not the part of the agreement for continued funding of where we continue to fund the debt repayment even if they paid it. So this is just operating.
No, that includes that portion of it,
Oh,
which
does
is
it?
expiring, I think, in June of 2022.
Oh, okay.
It's everything,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so this is everything?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So if you went and looked, if we jumped over, which we won't, to IDA's budget, you'll see that as revenue coming in from us.
Okay.
And then the professional services, that's
Professional services, that's largely being driven by what?
by Doug.
Doug.
Yeah.
That's the wood consulting, the
Yeah.
comp plan, the, okay.
But yeah, those first two are basically operating. You know, that professional services line. So, I mean, that's just depend on whether you engage in that service or not. So some of those, like the comp plan or consulting services for inspections, obviously, if those are as needed, that's sort of what the board would be authorizing as a not to exceed for all those.
Do we need to look at a professional services line item, I mean, underneath our cognizance for potential grants this year as this money is becoming available and we start looking for things? Do we need to think about budgeting for that stuff now, or?
Well, you know, generally when you get large grants, you know, we'll do budget amendments to.
Okay.
Because, you know, we're not anticipating any of that in here.
Yeah.
So, because we don't know if it'll be approved or not. So that would come as an amendment.
So that's a potential budget amendment.
Mhm.
Any other potentials out there? Given.
No, I can't think. Usually, you know, it's appropriation of grant revenue is the largest one that we would ever do. For the current year, we need to do a budget amendment for the property acquisition. In other words, to
That's still to be done.
Yeah.
But that's for 2020.
That's 21.
Okay. What else you got?
And we've talked about the salaries and compensation. So, you know, everybody but Sheriff's Department right now built into the budget is 3% COLA and 1.75% step increases. Maybe less than 3 to 5 departments have an additional 1.75 built in because certain employees will be working and completing a certificate and under our, what's the program called?
TED.
Yes.
TED program, if a complete certificate is completed, is something towards their current
Well, that-
profession.
And is that built into the budget?
It is.
It is.
So
They're
it's-
required to submit that prior according to your policy.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of dollars because it's probably 3 to 5 people across the whole
Yeah.
county that was submitted.
Which is nice to see people taking advantage.
I was just gonna say, it's
Yeah.
good to see people are doing it.
So we talk about special appropriations, we already talked about the differences between the sheriff and the dollar amount in difference. If he would have just gone, if he were going with the same compensation increases, it's a $265,000 difference. We do have a lot of open positions, as I've shown you earlier.
But their budget.
Hey, Alan, before you go there, just, and I know the board knows this, I just want to say it because the press is here. If you approve what's presented in this current form, and obviously it's got to be modified some because we've found mistakes that need to be corrected, but you're not approving that.
Right.
Okay, you're just approving this.
Right.
Okay. We're required constitutionally, as you all know, and I'm just saying it for the purpose of the member of the media that's here. This has to be addressed in the next cycle.
Right.
We can't approve all of this in this cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, we're just doing 2022.
Correct.
Right, yeah. And so, the final budget, the package will exclude a lot of these things that are just for conversation.
Right.
It won't have a lot of these, it'll have commentary, but not, some of these things would be left out.
You're not gonna print another one of these, are you?
I've got to make available a version to go out to the mass public.
Well,
And I've got to make some edits to the numbers that we.
all right. I just make notes on one and then I gotta turn it in and I'll lose my notes. Is there anything out there, are there any services out there that we can or may anticipate some changes in that we need to budget for potentially to cover? You know what I'm talking about. I won't say it, but the most recent potential change to a service provider in the county. Or is that something we just want to put to the side and say, let's come back and we'll have a budget amendment?
Yeah, we have to because you don't have to make the budget.
But as far as going ahead and putting it aside,
Yeah,
there's nothing to put aside.
no, there's not. Yeah, it's just. Yeah,
Revenue is what revenue is.
It's way too early right now. Keep in mind now, you'll get all the way into June of this budget before you even set the rate. So
we have to set the rate by.
We generally
do it early.
We do it in late July.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
May. It's going to be an interesting year. So.
And obviously, we'll do what we always do. I mean, as you can see, we're budgeting for every position. The likelihood that every position actually gets filled and stays filled is not likely, and that's generally how we come in under budget every year. So.
Okay. So the process on this is you're going to make some changes. We're going to continue to look at this because this is a great document, and there's some departments that we didn't look at. Is there anything of note with rec? This is just. I know we've got to go back to the city and approve the joint projects based on this budget being passed. So timeline, when do we want to?
We need to go ahead and advertise and hold a public hearing. So on our budget calendar, is that to be done at next week's meeting, or is that the November meeting in the second?
Can we do it on the 30th? Before we do the joint project?
Are we already scheduled for joint project?
I haven't heard back from the city, but I put it on my board's calendar.
What was that date? You remember?
November 30th.
All right. Yeah.
It's the Tuesday that the board has a meeting.
Invite too.
So November 30th for joint project. So we got to have this
I
time.
didn't send the invite yet because I was waiting to hear back from them. I just put it on that calendar.
Right.
But I'll confirm that tomorrow.
So this has to be done at our next meeting.
I don't see
Or-
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go ahead and have the public hearing. And you can have more than one public hearing. I
If
mean,
we have the public hearing, it doesn't give us enough days to advertise it if we do it on that meeting.
so you just prefer to do it on.
I prefer to
okay.
do it on
So
the
we'll
30th.
have our official public hearing then on the 30th. Opening.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how are we gonna get that out? We're just gonna put it on our website?
Mm-hmm. And then obviously advertise it to the press.
Okay.
That requires 7 days?
Yes,
Okay.
but the paper doesn't, I was trying to make sure before I said it, and the paper won't run until Thursday. So it won't give us enough.
You know, the,
And you can still amend it after the public hearing. I mean, you can amend it in next year. It's just we have to have that public hearing as a required component.
the issue that the sheriff brought up about one-time bonuses to employees. I mean, it sounds like it's a discussion we ought to have at work session. So I think
Your
need a recommendation. We just I mean just bring something to us and we'll discuss it. But you know it's a slippery slope. You know.
I'm not ready to have that conversation.
Okay. Well, we're thinking we got to put some attention units to it. So bring us something. We're not sure what we can or will potentially do.
Mr. Chairman, our association keeps a running database on organizations that have done that and how they've done it and what. So, and you probably all get those emails too.
And for us going forward, I mean, I'm just reiterate one last thing. It's time to think outside the box when it comes to employee retention and recruitment. And you know, what can we do to recruit the best and keep the best, and not lock ourselves into throwing tax dollars at pay increases. We can't keep up with Fayette County, Peachtree City, Tyrone.
No, they got a bigger tax base.
You know, I want us to set the bar for communities like ours, Upson, Monroe, other counties of like size. I get it that, you know, one of the tough things for us is we're so close to those other markets that it's just easy. And you know, and I want to hear from the citizens. I want them to tell us. I mean, I think I know what people. I think most people are in favor. I mean, anytime you hear back the blue or increases for law enforcement officers, you know, you never have any naysayers. But you know, we have got to have that hard discussion now, because just like Fayette County, you know, it's how you gonna pay for it. You back the blue all day long, and then you get your tax bill, and they want to get the blue to come get us. So it's just a discussion we got to have. But the only way to dodge all that is continued positive, non-inflationary growth of our digest. We need somebody building houses. We need industry to come here, people to move here.
We're doing good. We're doing better than we were.
We are. Is there anything else?
Yes. Okay, part of the budget, you can, that hasn't been discussed, is, if you want to call it a capital plan or a capital budget within SPLOST. So in discussing that with Jason, so what you have in there is a draft. And then he thought we don't have to have it approved this year, but we need to pick this back up again sometime early 2022.
There's a lot of stuff out there that, you know, that as we go down this path, you know, we find things that, you know, needs and wants. Yeah, we want some things, but we're finding things like, you know, getting an assessment done of the civic center structure, redoing the ball fields, you know.
So that's in there with footnotes.
Okay.
Yeah. Along with the vehicles. So
What vehicles?
the vehicles that we put on order. So we don't have an encumbrance system at this point, so those funds are technically encumbered, but we won't literally spend the funds until
Those vehicles come in.
Next year.
Do you show that as an encumbrance in there? Or,
I can do it manually and footnote them.
so when we see the dollar amount there, the number we see at the far right column of the checkbook ain't necessarily correct, huh?
No, it is correct.
It was correct, but we spent some.
It's been committed.
Okay.
The last thing is the special revenues funds are in your budget. You probably want to take a look at those. It's everything from ARPA to T-SPLOST. Or I should say Squirrel Bluff, it's a special revenue fund. Take a look at each of those. And so what you're going to see in the 2019 SPLOST is basically the revenues coming in, anticipated revenues, money's going out for debt service, money's going out for the city's portion, and then the rest going out for capital improvements. So, and we didn't talk about, you probably want to look at the waste, solid waste and water and sewer departments budgets. If you have any questions, please call me.
All right. Sounds like we're done. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second? All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're still live.
Be home at 4:30.
Yeah. That coming out. I love leaving the Air Force. Aim high, right? Ain't that what they told you?
Indeed.